Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of The Lost. This is the series where we focus on Mortal Kombat's lore. I am Shad, he is Razor, and we are both two very old veterans of Mortal Kombat fandom. If you'd care to join us socially for whatever godforsaken reason, we have a Discord, and if you feel like throwing something into a tip jar, we have a Patreon. I should probably plug this at the end. But yeah, there we go. Check us out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify. Like and subscribe. Smash that like button. Skullfuck it. Tonight's topic is... God.
You gonna be alright?
No, I'm dying. I'm dying inside.
This is appropriate. This is the time to do it. This is the character.
This is the time to die. No, you know, okay, no. Tonight's topic is Kintaro. Mortal Kombat's illustrious second sub-boss. And no one's favorite but my own.
Kintaro's my favorite. I like Kintaro better than Goro, Motaro, Moloch.
This is why we get along.
Who else has been a sub-boss?
Technically
Noob Smoke?
Yeah, they kind of fit in there, sort of. Man, it's been a while since we've had some fresh new blood, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I've always felt that Ferrator should have filled that mark in X. You know?
They sort of advertised Geras as Chronica's sub-boss, but he's not the second to last fight on the arcade ladder.
No, you've got to put that in there. You have to actually go through the process of going up the ladder at the end of arcade mode. That's how you know that they're bosses. Like, it should have been like Geras and like... What's her name?
I do like... Cetrion?
It should have been Geras, Cetrion, then Chronica as like a boss.
Yeah, I was about to say, in the marketing they talked about Geras as the sub boss, which implies he's more powerful than Cetrion, who's supposed to be an elder god.
Don't get me started on her. No, we're talking about good things tonight. We're talking about tiger things. So Kintaro's origins. Let's go.
This is gonna be difficult to cover in any official capacity because Kintaro has appeared in 3 games canonically, and only one of them has a bio.
I mean, that bio counts for a lot. It does.
Actually, wait. No, because MK9, Goro and Kintaro had bios written and can be found in the code.
I mean, that's the one that I'm thinking of.
They're not actually accessible in the game. So technically, Kintaro has never had a bio.
Technically, but I think that everyone treats that MK9 bio that like names his species as the Tigrar as basically official.
I mean, they did follow up with it later. Like, they had styles like Goro having Tigrar Fury and X. So it is, and I think Shiva's stuff mentions the Draco and Tigrar too.
Yeah, it's as good as canon. It's always been for me.
It basically counts. I just think it's funny that they wrote one and didn't put it in the game. Because
mysteries.
So here's the deal with Kintaro. Real world wise, if you look at the concept art as they were developing Mortal Kombat 2, Tobias was originally drafting up an idea for a sub boss that basically looked like Tony the Tiger in a karate gi.
Yeah, there's kind of a pretty much he's got some sort of kanji on his back that I can't actually read because it's all like small and squishy, and I don't know if I've actually seen that translated, but yeah, it's
I don't know, but
it's a vaguely Eastern-looking tiger man with claws in a karate gi with blue
he's got
trim.
Like a headband on.
Yeah, headband, blue trim, blue belt, bipedal.
The
there's
white.
There's only 2 arms.
Yeah. So, I assume he was. You know, there are a lot of like animal creatures in Asian mythology. Like you look at the characters in Journey to the West. Sun Wukong himself was a monkey man, and I could see where he was sort of going with like, okay, the last game our guy was half dragon, half human, so half tiger, half human, because there's like Also in Asian mythology, dragon and tiger are sometimes opposites or parallels. Uh, on the there's the, I forget what they call them, like the four heavenly beasts or something in Chinese mythology, and each
Right.
one represents a different cardinal direction on the compass. Like there's the Azure Dragon of the West, the Red Phoenix of the East, something like that, and then there's a White Tiger for North and a Black Turtle for South, or vice versa. I don't remember exactly, but the so tiger and dragon are both common like mythological animals in Chinese and Japanese stuff, and furry warriors in Asian mythological fiction is a thing. So I can see where his head was at. I think the reason that they ended up dropping that and making him a tiger-themed Shokan instead was budget. Like, it was easier to just have the guy who made the clay model of Goro pump another clay model out of the mold and then paint stripes on it. And the armor on Kintaro is actually from a Super Shredder action figure, and I know that because I had that action figure.
So did I. So did
I've also
I.
seen them confirm it on Twitter, the developers.
You know, it might have been budget, but I look at that concept art, which is probably some of the more famous like MK concept art out there, because it's so different from what we actually got.
Yeah.
I think that John also knew that this guy in this design, didn't really fit in with the MK aesthetic.
No, it's a little, I don't want to say too cartoony, but there is something not
He's not intimidating.
gritty and realistic and scary enough for like that era of MK games when they were still.
I can't picture
trying to
this
look
guy
like-
cutting you in half or something with his claws. He's too
Yeah.
friendly.
Yeah, like the aesthetic of the early MK games was very much trying to look like this could be a live action movie, and these are like Harryhausen puppet monsters, and the Shokan look does lend itself better to that.
It does.
I mean, literally Tony the Tiger. It's
Like the face on this guy looks like kind of more like a wizened old master. You know, this is something it's something out of Kung Fu Panda years before the fact.
Yeah, he doesn't strike me as like a brutal warrior who works for Shao Kahn.
If I was to encounter this guy in like the realm of Mortal Kombat, I'd assume he's a nice guy.
Yeah, like I could see him maybe as like a member of the roster, as like a guy who comes from Earthrealm or something.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like a secret mountain creature. Like, oh, Earthrealm has these things in it that the humans don't know about because they're in hiding and that kind of thing. But like, just a guy in a karate gi doesn't work for Outworld.
Yeah, he feels like an emissary of the gods or something. I don't know. It doesn't.
Yeah, that could be.
I don't know.
I think his gi is a little similar to what Raiden is wearing, so maybe that's what you're thinking.
It's possible.
But yeah. So the thing is, everyone knows what we ended up getting. You know, tiger-themed Shokan. No explanation why he's got tiger stripes at that time. No explanation what his connection to Goro might be until the comic book came out. And all the Mortal Kombat 2 official comic book from John Tobias really has to offer for a backstory is, you know, it's the scene where Shao Kahn has
Shang Tsung below him groveling. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
you fucked up. Goro's dead, and he's got
Yeah.
Gorbak with him. And it's like, we're gonna.
Yeah, and Shang is like begging for his life. You know, I've got a plan. Let's have a second tournament, and Khan's gonna give him his youth back. And King Gorbak, Goro's father, says, "Fine, if Shang Tsung must live, then so be it. But I insist, if this excursion back into the realms is to succeed, we must send a warrior from Kuatan. I offer Kintaro." And that's pretty much it. It's just the Shokan wanted to send another one of their guys because they're mad that their prince is dead. And Kintaro is the strongest of their guys, I guess. That's really all we knew about him. Now,
I think he has one line of dialogue in that comic.
yeah, all he
look it
says
up.
is, "Great Shao Kahn, I stand at your command."
Nice, polite.
I think he talks a little more later when him and Jax are fighting. No, he doesn't say anything. They're just punching each other. Okay, so yeah, but and that's all we got until Motaro in MK3. Some of the strategy guides would offer bios for him because there wasn't any in the game. And Motaro's bios given in these strategy guides basically said so he's the new general, and Shao Kahn picked him. And I should clarify, in the olden days of Mortal Kombat, when they said General of Outworld's armies, they meant Supreme General, the top guy. There's only one at a time. And I know that
It was a title. It was the title. It was the guy that was running the pack.
some people sort of find that confusing because in the American military, general is a very high rank, but there can be more than one at a time. No, if you're the general of Outworld, you're the only one. And there are continuity errors with this in the current era games where like the creators don't seem to realize anymore that there can only be one general at a time, so it's like Kotal is a general at the same time Reiko is a general at the same time Goro is a general, but anyway. In the old games, there was only one general at a time, and Motaro from the Centaurs was chosen, these bios said, because Goro had been the general, and Kintaro had been the general, and they both, failed to defeat Earthrealm. So Shao Kahn was like, fuck the Shokan. You guys, Centaurs, the mortal enemies of the Shokan, it's your turn now. And this is a big part canonically of Shiva's backstory and why she ends up turning on Shao Kahn and Motaro and all that stuff. But just the bit in there about the idea that Kintaro was briefly the general is in...
Where's the source on that? What card?
It's just like certain strategy guides would base in Motaro bios. And I'm not saying this is canon. In fact, it's probably not. There's no evidence in anywhere else that Kintaro ever held the rank. But him being the sub-boss of the tournament, whatever that means in the second tournament, because we don't know anything about that bracket, and failing, did canonically play into Motaro being chosen as the next general. And we do know Goro was the general. Like, the first time we heard that was in the 95 movie, so obviously if that's all you're going by, you wouldn't think it's canon. But there are other sources, bios here and there and things in the crypt and things like that just sort of establish a lineage of, like, a long time ago, Reiko was the general, and then he died and became a whatever he is at MK4 for Shinnok. Goro was the general until he lost in the Mortal Kombat tournament and disappeared because he faked his death and everyone thought he was dead. And then Motaro. So there was a gap, theoretically, where either Kintaro was the general or there was no general during MK2.
I tend to think that it was Kintaro.
If this sounds vague and confusing, then I'm communicating how it felt properly. Because that's what happens when the game doesn't give you bios, and you can't trust these strategy guides because you don't know if Tobias wrote this text for them and sent it to them, or if, like, Brady Games or Prima wrote it themselves. So it's really super unclear what Kintaro's role in the tournament was, other than to be just another competitor from Outworld, the same as Baraka and Kitana and Melina.
Based on later appearances, I tend to think that he fought Kung Lao, and Kung Lao probably took him down. But that's just, like, conjecture on my part.
I mean, that is certainly what happens in MK9.
It happens in 9, and it had happened before in Shaolin Monks. You can give him the opportunity, Kung Lao and Liu Kang, to, like, go up and fight against him. That's the thing.
In Shaolin Monks, there's a weird thing going on with the plot where there isn't a tournament until they get to the arena.
Oh, I'm not saying that we should look at Shaolin Monks as any kind of indicator for story quality. I'm just saying that there have been 2 separate occasions where we've had the capacity to have Kung Lao go up against Kintaro, and it's nice to have Kung Lao do fucking something during that tournament, so I tend to think that that's a fight that actually happened.
I mean, And again, in Shaolin Monks, it's Liu Kang and Kung Lao at the same time. But here's the thing that is weird to me. So in MK1, the reason the sub boss existed as a gameplay mechanic in the arcade ladder is because story-wise, Goro was supposed to be the last fight. Like, as the reigning champion from previous tournaments, he didn't have to fight in the bracket. He didn't have to fight at all until somebody got to the end of the bracket. Like, Goro was the finals. And because he held the title. But in MK2, Liu Kang holds the title, and Shao Kahn says, if you come to my tournament, we're going to change the rules up, and I'm going to be the finals. So why are Shang and Kintaro at the end before Kahn? Like, why do they get a bye to the final rounds instead of having to go through the bracket? Like, is it canon that there's a sub-boss in MK2? Does Kintaro really get to skip all the fights? And why?
One day, man, one day, hopefully they'll tell us how these fucking tournaments work. I don't know.
They don't know. They can't tell us what they don't know.
But anyway, so we get this guy, and I'm going to share some arcade memories now, not just lore.
Fair enough.
Kintaro was the first sub-boss I ever fought, because I played MK2 before MK1 back in the day.
Yeah.
And this was the strategy for beating MK2. Pick whoever you like, get towards the opponent, jump backwards, have them follow you with a jump, and then, uppercut them or do whatever. Up until you get to Kintaro. Then the strategy is, unless you're playing anyone but Kitana, you lose. Good day, sir. No, then you pick Kitana, and just wait for an opportunity for him to start walking towards you and just do a couple of fan lifts. Half the time he'll walk up into them, and then you can combo him to your heart's content. If you're using anyone else, you better have some good reflexes. You better be really good with jump kicks.
So the AI, we could do like a whole video, a whole podcast on the ways MK2's ladder AI cheats. And
there's been some dissection videos up there about it recently on the YouTubes.
Well, I appreciate someone doing the work for us. The ones that I always remember the most are the fact that they can throw from a further distance than throwing should be possible.
Mm-hmm.
They can throw while you're in the middle of a move. Kintaro loves to throw while you're striking him with an attack. Like if you do Liu Kang's flying kick to him...
Yeah, he can just straight up grab you right out of the air.
Instead of being hit by the kick, like the moment your hitbox connects with him, you get thrown.
It's marvelous bullshit. And you know what the greatest thing about this is? Most people never played the early revisions of MK2. They toned Kintaro down for the versions that we know. It was bad, man. Like in 2.0 or something, he would react, I repeat, would react to any fireball you threw at any time with a teleport stomp, automatically. It was free. You weren't beating that guy. I don't know how the fuck people managed if they did. But
my favorite thing is when he's just in the mood to shoot 6 fireballs out of his mouth in a row.
Yeah, it's
just look like it. Just fuck you.
But it was such a memorable fight, though. Like, beating him was really hard. Not impossible, just really hard.
Oh,
it's still a fun challenge.
It's an accomplishment, even when you're cheesing it.
Good luck if you're playing with Reptile. Just good fucking luck. Fuck you. It's not happening. It's just not fucking happening. You gotta, learn how to read the teleport stomp. You really do, and learn how to jump back, kick him out of the fucking thing.
He used to be a hidden character. He used to be tough.
He used to be somebody. He could have been a contender. But anyway, no. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because,
right.
Kintaro was such a fun, frustrating but fun fight to have in the arcades, and
that is the main reason why I like him better than Goro. That and the fact that I think his sprite looks better. Like, it's weird because Goro and Kintaro are literally made from the same clay mold. Like, technically, their anatomies are identical. They're just painted and dressed differently. But Kintaro looks way better in the game than me.
He's bulkier. His animation is really smooth. His fingers are flexing with anticipation. A lot of thought went into that. A lot of thought.
Yeah.
And the memory I have of the first fucking time, or something like that I fought Kintaro, was just getting my ass handed to me, just really badly. I might have been using Scorpion. And Kintaro will do this thing sometimes. You know how he'll like taunt with like this roar or whatever, and sometimes he'll just fucking growl. Like, I'd had this moment, like I was not going to win that match, where like I tried to jump kick and he blocked it, and he just did nothing. But I heard the growl sound effect, and I basically had enough time to go and wham across the fucking screen. Kintaro wins. It was so good.
Yeah, he's a more challenging fight. He's a better looking sprite, a more interesting design, I think. Although his design doesn't make sense if you think about it, because if a Shokan is already half dragon, half human, and then you throw Tiger in there, now he's 1/3 of everything. How does the DNA on that break down? Where did the Tiger side enter the family tree?
This Outworld General, half human, half dragon, half tiger. And another thing I really appreciate, though, is a little bit of programming magnificence here. The way that the crowd would cheer every time he or Shao Kahn hit you.
Oh yeah.
And after the round was done, when it said like Kintaro wins or whatever, they'd like cheer in the background, and they'd be just dead silent if you won. Like it added so much atmosphere to the fight.
Yeah.
Things like that they don't think about today, and it's a goddamn shame.
Yeah. There's
adds so much to atmosphere. It's so
there's
good.
not nearly as much like attention to like the audio cues in the fights anymore. Like, you don't have like cheering in the background. Like, you don't have like when you uppercut, Shao Kahn doesn't say outstanding or excellent anymore.
He's supposed to be watching these fights, people. He should be commenting.
I miss it.
Me too. Anyhow, Kintaro.
So Kintaro does not appear in Mortal Kombat 3 or Ultimate.
Well, hang on. Before we go further, we should discuss his moveset.
You're right.
Because his moveset greatly informs his character and who he is versus the likes of Goro and Shiva.
Well, here's the interesting thing is that ever since Kintaro, ever since MK2, the other Shokans have been stealing from his moveset.
That's what I wanted to cover, yeah.
So it doesn't feel original anymore, but he is basically the inventor of all the moves we think of as the Shokan stuff, because for like 2 decades, I mean, in MK1, Goro has that green fireball he shoots out of his fist that looks like a rocket punch, like he's throwing his fist at you.
Yep. Looks like
and
magic.
then he didn't have it until MK9. Like, every Goro appearance, like 4 and Deception and Armageddon, he's using Kintaro moves instead. He's like breathing fire.
Kintaro spits fire. Kintaro does a gigantic jump upwards and lands down on top of you.
Yeah.
In MK1, Goro leaped forward and onto you.
Yeah, he had a big leap, but he didn't leave the screen. Like, they call it a teleport when Kintaro does it, because he disappears from the screen.
Like, you're supposed to be thinking of like how the Hulk can just jump up these ridiculous heights and stuff because he's got the leg muscle. Like, that was the implication I got from it. You were supposed to be thinking of the Hulk. Kintaro and Goro are not the same, like, type of person, type of archetype, apart from being members of the same species. Goro is a martial artist, and Kintaro attacks with brute force.
Like, there's nothing that says it in text, but I believe canonically Kintaro is supposed to be physically stronger than Goro.
I think so.
Like Goro, I mean, Goro has that little tiny bit in his bio about, like, being the pupil of Shang Tsung. And so that kind of creates the image that he does use, like, some kind of martial arts, that he has, like, speed and finesse. Kintaro is like instead of the speed guy, he's the strength guy, just like brute force, no technique.
Okay, actually, there's an old bio for Kintaro running around. I think that this was in the SNES manual.
Okay.
I remember reading this. With Goro missing, Kintaro steps up to take his place as supreme ruler of Shao Kahn's armies.
Okay, so there you go.
Stronger and more agile than his predecessor, he is enraged by Goro's defeat. Kintaro vows to take revenge on the Earth Warriors responsible. I think that's supposed to be his official MK2 bio.
Okay, so I mean that does confirm that he was the general.
And it confirms that he was stronger than Goro. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Like, you've seen Tobias's MK3 period artwork. Now that we're in that period, he drew the guy almost comically bulked up. He's huge. his head looks. Honestly, I gotta be honest. It's not one of Tobias's better works. Like his head is really small in comparison to the rest of his body. He's bulky. He's been eating spinach.
He's definitely got one of those, the cartoon physiques with the tiny head and the giant torso and arms. So yeah, that's interesting that if we assume that bio is meant to be canon, that does confirm some of the vagaries that we were just discussing.
Like, I remember seeing this bio. I'm pretty sure it's in the MK2 instruction manual for SNES, and I'm sure it was in a bunch of strategy guides at the time.
I mean, it sounds familiar. I'm sure I've seen it before. I'm sure I've seen every bio before. It's just, every guide has slightly different text in it, or some of them have no text, and like I said, you don't know if, like, Brady or Prima made it up. When you were a kid, it was hard to find, like, a sense of what's official and what isn't.
Oh, some of those strategy guide things. Some of those strategy guides, man.
So yeah, Kintaro had we call it a teleport stomp, but it's a Hulk jump. He jumps straight up and comes down.
Yeah,
it's not like magic where he disappears.
It is a continued source of irritation to me to this day that they just give Goro everything.
Well, they give Goro and Shiva. And to be fair, Shiva was deliberately created to answer fan demand to play the Shokan moveset. Like, fans wanted to be Goro or Kintaro.
Yeah, that's
And Boone
that's
and
fair.
Tobias felt that if they literally could, it would be unbalanced in, like, versus play. So instead they created a female Shokan so that she could be smaller and closer to the same size and ability as the other characters on the roster, and then they gave her all of the most famous Goro and Kintaro moves.
Did they though? They gave they gave her a teleport stomp. But
they gave her a teleport stomp.
She had a huge fireball of her own that was different than either of them prior.
Yeah, it's like a combination of how Goro did his fist and Kintaro breathing fire, because it comes out of her hands, but it's fire.
And she was the first one to have a ground stomp.
It's also, I mean, there's a very unique animation to her fireball in 3 that isn't in any of the other games she was in. It's unique to the 3 Ultimate and Trilogy set. It's like she puts her hands out forward to throw the fireball, but what actually happens is she sets off a chain of explosions towards you.
Yeah.
It's almost like some kind of Hulk clap, except you can tell she's not really clapping.
It feels some of those weird special moves they did in that period between the original Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Fireballs with fireballs behind them or something.
It's like a fireball doing a shadow kick.
Something like that. I am glad that they gave that back to her in some capacity for MK11 for her EX. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. She also has, like, a ground pound. She, like, does a short hop instead of the big leap. It just stomps on the ground.
More stolen property from our man.
And then in Armageddon, all of them got Goro's grab and punch.
Actually, Kintaro had the grab and punch starting with Trilogy.
Did he?
Don't think... No, I don't think he had it in 2. Or did he?
Well, so I remember in Armageddon, it's not exactly the same as like Goro picks you up with his bottom hands and beats you repeatedly with his top hands. Kintaro like has like a gust of wind breath, like he sucks you in towards him by breathing in,
Oh, that was
catches
yeah,
you,
that was weird.
and then smashes you with his top hand. So it's like unique to him, but it's still basically the same mechanic.
When they ported him in Trilogy, though, they did give him a forward high punch command grab. I'm just forgetting right now whether he actually did it in MK2 because I'm so used to seeing the sprite doing it. I don't know.
Hmm.
Anyhow,
Well, I remember he has like just a throw, like he grabs you,
yeah,
lifts you over his head, and slams you down on the other side.
it's an overhead body slam. Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically the same thing Jax does, but Kintaro can only do it once, and Jax can do it 4 times.
Fun fact: for some stupid reason, in Trilogy, he's the only one of the sub bosses, I think. No, wait, no. Kahn has one too, but they didn't give this, or did they give it to Goro? I don't know. They gave him the capacity to do a 2-hit combo: high punch and then down and high punch. It's just ludicrous, just like 30% damage or something.
Yeah,
That was not necessary.
That's the thing I was getting to. So obviously there's no like canon sense of what happened to Kintaro at the end of 2. He doesn't appear in 3 or Ultimate, and him and Goro appear in the PlayStation version of Trilogy. And the weird thing about that is that Goro being in Trilogy is actually non-canon. Because story-wise, when MK4 rolls around, it says that Goro stayed in hiding from the end of MK1 until MK4.
Yeah, everyone just thought he was dead.
So, and also, like, PlayStation Trilogy has the male chameleon who might not be real, and
He's
N64 has the female chameleon who has a bio and ending and is therefore a canon character.
He's real, Razor. He's in the room with you right now.
So, like, if it
you.
weren't if it weren't for the fact that the N64 is missing Sub-Zero, like it's missing Unmasked Sub and it has Classic Sub instead. If it weren't for that fact, N64 would be the canon version of Trilogy, and PlayStation's Trilogy wouldn't count. So whether or not Kintaro was really there story-wise during Trilogy is up in the air.
I tend to vote for yes. I think he was just there taking part in the invasion, and MK9 kind of showed it that way, and I was happy with that.
So here's the
It's hard to know.
the thing that makes me think Kintaro wasn't there. It's there was a strategy guide released on CD-ROM for MK3.
The Ultimate Guide to Mortal Kombat CD-ROM.
And in that, I believe Motaro's bio, once again explaining how he became the general after Goro and Kintaro got,
I'm looking at it right now.
beaten by Earthrealm. Go ahead and read the text then.
His race rules the highlands of Outworld. They are also the natural enemy of the Shokan. With the absence of the Shokan's greatest warriors, the mighty Goro and his predecessor Kintaro, in brackets, he was vaporized by Raiden. Motaro was granted the role of leader of Shao Kahn's armies. Known for their hunting prowess, Kahn brings a herd of Motaro's best Centaurian warriors to Earth. They make up the center point of Kahn's extermination squads and viciously hunt down the remaining humans. Such is the text.
Here's the weird thing about the CD-ROM. It has, like, screenshots from the movie, right? Like,
I think the cover for it is the cover for this thing is basically the MK95 movie logo. So
yeah, like it's a mix of like MK3 strategy guide and bios and story material and merchandise for the film. So I think it was put out by Threshold.
Yeah.
So I'm not like it's probably not canon, but here's the thing.
It's not, and I can tell you why.
Go ahead.
I am right now. Okay, Tabmock, otherwise known as Combat on the old MK Online boards.
like fucking square bracket, squiggly bracket for a K, 0 for an O, MBAT. That's why I call him Tabmock, because you can't pronounce the symbols that make up the K.
He's the man. He chimed in on our recent Smoke episodes to remind me of the fact that like Smoke also had a bio on his old GI Joe toy car that said he was from Outworld,
Huh.
which further adds to my like thought that that guy was originally planned to be from Outworld. But anyway, he asked John Tobias in 2020, 2 years ago, about this very topic. I'm reading the tweet right now. Question for the real Cybot. Did Raiden really vaporize Kintaro in MK2? It was never mentioned in-game, but shown in both the Ultimate Guide to MK CD-ROM and a pamphlet from the MK Defenders of the Realm DVD. Was this your idea, or was this made up by Threshold/New Line? And John Tobias replied, we left Kintaro hanging after MK2. I never resolved his story, and I would not consider anything in any media other than the games at the time to be canon. That said, I'm sure we approved the blurb from Defenders of the Realm, but that doesn't make it canon with the games. Not sure what was done with Kintaro post me, but hopefully he was given proper closure. That's John's status on it.
Well, here's the thing. He wasn't given proper closure.
No, not really.
So for me, the fact that, so Kintaro's appearance in Trilogy, since I don't personally consider it canon because PlayStation Trilogy is weird. And then there's, he's not in 4, he's not in Deadly Alliance, he's kind of in Deception Conquest, but it's, I'll get to the ways in which it's canonically fuzzy. And then, so he doesn't appear from MK2 until Armageddon, and Armageddon is the Everybody Came Back from the Dead game. So
are you telling me that the status of whether or not Kintaro showed up in a forest to give Shujinko $1,000 is canonically fuzzy?
Well, there's another thing that I'll get to, but yes, that is fuzzy.
Here, take this.
So since he doesn't show up again until Armageddon, I assumed he died in 2. And if you're gonna, come up with a way he died, the only one I'm given is Raiden blew him up. That sounds believable to me. That sounds like a way it could happen, so I'm okay with that. I would prefer to accept that as canon and say Kintaro was dead until Armageddon.
That's fair.
So, one thing, I'm pretty sure we brought it up during the Jax episode, but, so, like that CD-ROM thing that isn't canon said, Raiden vaporized Kintaro. I have no idea where this comes from. I heard it on the message boards somewhere, I think. So I don't know that there is a source for it, or it's just fucking fan fiction. But, one of the details that I originally heard multiple times somewhere is that there was more to that. That the reason Raiden vaporizes Kintaro was to save Jax from being killed by Kintaro. Which I presume it was because Jax was trying to, free Sonya and Kano in the arena, and Kintaro was going to stop him and was going to beat Jax to death, and that's why Raiden killed him. And I actually, even though I have no source for it and can't call it canon, and it probably is just fan fiction, I really like that and think it should be canon, because it plays into Jax's motivation to get the cybernetic arms in MK3. Because, the whole thing in the original timeline was that Jax didn't lose his arms, he just wanted enhancements. They're just sleeves that make him stronger because he realized he needed to gear up to fight Outworld when the invasion came. And it also plays into, there's a sense in the MK2 comic, the John Tobias one, that they're sort of setting up Jax and Kintaro as rivals because they're both the two strongest guys. The two of them end up fighting each other when Shang attacks Johnny's movie studio in order to challenge them to the tournament. It seems like that was kind of the thing. There's room for these rivalries in the lore that have never really been explored well. Obviously Liu Kang has Shang Tsung and Shao Kahn, but Kung Lao has a long-standing grudge with Baraka because the Tarkatans are the ones who attack the temple at the beginning of 2. Sonya has Kano, and then sometimes Jax has Kano, which I feel takes away from Sonya's grudge. For Jax, it shouldn't be personal. He's just the leader of the unit, right?
There's too many people with Kano. It's a side
Yeah.
effect of their continued attempts to endear the Special Forces characters to us.
Yeah, so I think it makes the story it ties everything together with a bow a little bit neater if you have some sort of situation in MK2 where the strongest Outworlder, Kintaro, defeats Jax, so that Jax has a reason to go, my strength isn't enough when the invasion comes.
I mean, I kind of had that thought back when I was a kid. Like, if Jax is doubting his own capacity for strength and his ability to take on any challengers, even though he's the strongest person on Earth, according to his bio, he had to have had it handed to him by someone who was immeasurably stronger. And, that's the logical choice. So when I was younger, I definitely imagined some sort of Jax Kintaro fight in my mind.
Yeah. Like if Jax is, going through life having been acknowledged as the strongest man on this planet, then he should have an abundance of confidence. And there's no reason for him to feel the need for the bionic arms unless during MK2 he met and lost to someone stronger than him from that planet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I always just thought that was an interesting thing, and it would have given Kintaro something to do that actually resonated and made Kintaro more important, which I don't feel like him burning Cabal succeeded at doing.
I mean, it would be great either way. I mean, it doesn't make Kintaro more important to the actual plot of anything. It's one way or another. It's just him kicking someone's ass.
The thing is, in the new timeline, they tried these different things with, Ermac and Jax, and that didn't really feel like it connected, It didn't... every single game in the new timeline has a bit where Jax or Jackie is bringing it up at least once. That Ermac, but they never really
go anywhere with it.
Yeah.
No, I don't think there wasn't any real plan to make anything out of Kintaro burning Cabal, except that it was a shortcut, because MK9's story mode, to hammer the point home, was a hyper condensing of 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, they had to shove 3 games worth of plot into 2.5 hours of cutscenes, right?
So what happens to Cabal? Well, Cabal gets fucked up by an extermination squad. Who do we put on the extermination squad that's available for us to use? This big fucker right here who hasn't done very much. It's a shortcut. And as far as shortcuts that they've taken go in that particular story mode, I find it one of the least objectionable. It could have more gravitas, it could have more pathos, it could mean something. It would be nice if it did. But not everything does.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I just feel like the strongest guy versus strongest guy makes more sense. And that's why...
Well, thematically, sure.
That's one of the reasons that in Battle for the Realms I really enjoy that it's Jax versus Kintaro. Because it plays out the opposite way because he's already got the bionics. But Jax versus Goro in the first one played out the way that Jax versus Kintaro would have in the original MK2. So you're still basically getting the same story, only there's a more pronounced payoff where it's big strongest guy in Outworld, 4-armed guy ripped off my arms. Haha, look what happens now when I fight another one of those.
You know what? Thinking about it, if the Malibu Comics had actually continued into MK3, Jackson Kintaro have a moment there. We'll talk about it later. But yeah, Kintaro nearly snaps the guy's spine in half, very, very nearly. So they probably had the same thought that we did, that Jax would have used his experiences against Baraka and Kintaro to get him to beef himself up, and also because his arms weren't working anymore because of what Baraka did to them.
I mean, they were still attached. He just got slashed in the armpits.
He already had a plan, though. He says that when we get home, we're going to make him some metal arms. Genius. Yeah. What are you going to do to yourself next, Jax?
Here's another thing I want to bring up, though. Speaking of weird things that happened at the end of MK2, I don't know how many of our viewers are aware of this, but when 3 came out, there was a weird audio clip of like Ed Boon with a deep voice filter on him, like speaking at a mock funeral for Johnny Cage to explain why Johnny wasn't in MK3. And in the eulogy Ed gives, he says Kintaro killed Johnny at the end of the tournament.
What the f...
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to mourn the death of Johnny Cage. Killed at the hands of Kintaro during the second Mortal Kombat, he was only 29 years old, yet he fought. MK3 is not over. Not even close.
Now, obviously, Trilogy would later retcon this and say that Johnny actually died to extermination squads at the beginning of the invasion.
Oh man, they knew really early on they wanted him dead. I think there was still a lot of bad blood from the whole lawsuit with Master Daniel Pesina, and they just wanted to get rid of the character.
Yeah, it's interesting. The layers of dead Johnniness. Like, obviously, he has a tombstone with his name on it in the graveyard stage.
I mean, I just considered it like the longest running joke. He keeps dying and coming back, but there was probably some animosity going on there for real.
I don't think there was any on Ed and John's part, but I think, like, they had, like, higher-ups at Midway telling them, fuck this guy, and all the other blue screen actors that are trying to get these, you know, this payout for the home So, for those who don't know, the full situation was that Dan Pesina, Catalan Zamiar, Philip On, a few other of the blue screen actors from MK1 and 2. The reasons they were recast in 3 Ultimate and Trilogy is because when the home console versions of MK1 and 2 came out, they wanted royalties because their contract did not cover whether or not the games would be ported to the home consoles. So they're like, hey, that's our likeness, and you're using it in a way that our contract doesn't... Where's the money for that? So there was a lawsuit. Now, you also hear online people speculate that the reason Dan Pesina was kicked out and Johnny was killed was because of him doing an advertisement for a game called Bloodstorm, I believe it was, dressed as Johnny Cage.
Yeah, fuck Mortal Kombat. This is the next best thing. Yeah.
Apparently, so on Twitter, that one's been debunked. Apparently, some of the Midway guys knew some of the Bloodstorm devs, and they were okay with that. Like, they thought it was funny, and there was no bad blood about that.
It's goddamn hilarious.
The reason for those blue screen actors getting the shaft after 2 was all because of the lawsuit stuff. But anyway, yeah, so there was a brief period of time where I guess Ed thought, yes, Johnny died to Kintaro. It was retconned later. Kintaro never gets anything good.
Oh, man. Okay, here's the way I see it. I view the opening to Armageddon, the opening sequence, as pretty much 100% canon in my mind. Last time on this very show, we were talking about how it's very notable that Smoke is on the good guy's side. We want to believe that that's a sign of something.
Right.
And that very same intro, Kintaro is given his only fucking real shining appearance.
Yeah, he is front and center at the beginning. Like, he's the first fighter you see.
Yeah, and he's just out there standing in front of the bad guys, and he lets out this tremendous roar as they all rush past him.
Yeah.
I was so thrilled to see that, by the way. It was so rewarding.
It was nice. I had some little nitpicks about his design. I don't really like the braided ponytail.
Oh, we'll get into design in a second. We're gonna get into design.
Yeah.
Because it's, oh man, it's something, isn't it?
He's had some problems over the years.
Dude's got some difficulties.
The first look really was the best.
I don't think we need a favorite look this time. We really don't. It's two, man. It's just straight up two.
There's no competition.
No, there's really not.
Unless you have a favorite face from the MKX comic.
Oh God.
We'll get to that too.
Still proud of that one. Still proud.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's pretty much it. Okay, you said he had something else in like Deception Conquest.
So here's the thing. So
I forgot.
In Deception Conquest, when Shujinko gets to Edenia for the first time and runs around and can talk to the NPCs, you can find Reiko. And Reiko will say that Shao Kahn sent him and Kintaro to invade Edenia. Now, here's where this is weird and fuzzy on the timeline. So, after Edenia was free in MK3, the next thing that's supposed to happen between Outworld and Edenia is that Katana attacks Outworld. Like, she wants to kill Shao Kahn before he can attack Edenia again. So when Deception has a few things in Conquest mode, and some of them are Shujinko story cutscenes, like it's tied into all that stuff where you've got to rescue Sindel from Tanya.
Yeah.
It says that Outworld attacked first and was invading again, and that's why Katana went to Outworld to kill Kahn during Deadly Alliance. And those 2 points don't work together. They don't add up. So the lines where Reiko is saying him and Kintaro were sent to invade, which implies Kintaro has been alive all along, by the way, I can't consider them canon because they don't fit the actual timeline of Deadly Alliance.
Yeah, when it comes to Deception's Conquest, I just try to squint and make sense out of Shujinko's life as it's depicted, as little interaction as possible, and try to reconcile the rest of the crap as best I can, because it's not a straight line from A to B.
No, there are problems. But that is Kintaro's actual mention, other than the fact that he pops out of the woods and gives you coins.
Here, take these.
So that's his cameos in Deception.
You know what I wouldn't fucking give for a friendship in an MK game where someone just not on the fucking roster appears in a puff of smoke and gives someone $1,000 and this little counter pops up. That would make my day.
It's sort of like in the 11 crypt where you find like dead Kenshi and dead Ermac and take their stuff, but if they were alive, like if Ermac woke up on the pit spike and was like, "Here, take this," that would be more entertaining.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Dude, are you dead? He's like, "No, I'm fine. Just give me a minute."
So motherfuckers,
I just have to catch my breath and then I'll get myself off the spike.
Oh, they did him dirty.
Yeah.
So the guy shows up in the Armageddon Conquest mode as well as an apparition.
Yeah. So here's
by
the
Shinnok.
thing. Story-wise, Taven is chasing Dagon, and he goes to the Netherrealm, follows him there, and runs into Shinnok. And Taven was put to sleep before Shinnok turned evil, so he doesn't know Shinnok is evil. So Shinnok, all he knows is Shinnok is an elder god and an ally of his family, and Shinnok tells him, I did a thing, the elder gods banished me for, like, they're the ones who are dicks. All I was trying to do was something good for the people, whatever. You know, he lies to him.
It's what he does.
And then he says, so there's been an uprising down here in the Netherrealm, and they've taken my throne, will you help me get it back? And so you fight through his tower, and you fight a bunch of characters, including Shiva and Kintaro, and Havoc. And when you beat them all, and Shinnok sends Taven home, Shinnok then says to Dagon that Taven beat all my apparitions, all of my fake fighters, like, faster than you did. Maybe I should take his side. So everybody you fight in the tournament is an illusion, but I find it very interesting who Shinnok chose to make illusions of.
Yes, it's Shiva, Kintaro, and Havoc.
Like, it is very believable that Havoc would stage a rebellion in the Netherrealm. But, like...
And Shiva
here's the
is
thing.
dead
Shiva,
at that
yeah,
point.
Shiva is in the Netherrealm. Like, she died in MK3. We find that out in Deadly Alliance, and we see her cameo in Deception Conquest
It's
is
a fucking
just...
corpse sitting on a floor.
She's just lying on the ground in a house in the Netherrealm.
You can't even interact with it.
No, she's just lying there. So she's been in the Netherrealm canonically. And, you also encounter, Motaro down there, before you run into Shinnok, and we know Motaro was dead. And
True,
you encountered...
Motaro as well. Almost forgot.
Yeah, and you encounter Draman, and we can assume that he was returned to the Netherrealm at the end of Deadly Alliance, beginning of Deception, when Raiden blew up the palace, because Draman and Moloch were in the basement of the palace, so they would have got blown up too.
Yeah.
And you save Shinnok from Li Mei the first time you meet Shinnok down there. And Li Mei theoretically might have died and gone to the Netherrealm at the end of Deception because she was turning evil?
Hard to say.
It's super unclear whether she died or not, but it is canon that she was being, like, possessed by one of the Dragon King's mummies and turning bad.
In the Armageddon intro, though, she gets shanked right when they collide with Hotaru, who's on the bad guy's side.
Well, yeah, here's the thing. She was on the good guy's side in the intro. The intro has to have taken place after Conquest mode. Now, here's my theory. If Li Mei was turning evil because her soul was sharing space with one of these mummies' souls, then when she dies, the two souls would have been separated again, and she'd be in the Netherrealm because she did a bad thing, but she'd be herself again, so she'd want redemption and want to get out of there. So if she escaped with everybody else to be at the pyramid during the intro, she would be on the good guy's side.
Man, it's amazing how little of this conversation is actually about Kintaro. It's actually about trying to figure out what the fuck happened to Kintaro. What is he doing?
The point I'm trying to make overall is that the apparitions Shinnok used are all people who would believably be there.
Conceivably.
Which lends to my theory that Kintaro is supposed to have been dead from MK2 to MKA.
I can understand it, I can respect it, but it just takes much less in the way of mental gymnastics to me to just say he was around and wasn't really doing that much.
I don't know, I feel like his absence for 4 games in a row is too conspicuous. It makes more sense to say he was dead than to say he was there and didn't do anything.
I mean, if you want to believe Chameleon exists, when has he ever done anything?
We know Chameleon's story is that he doesn't do anything.
He works for Shao Kahn. Okay, this is the thing. I'm willing to concede. I am willing to concede that a character exists, but just isn't important. I don't think that a character needs to be important to the events taking place in order to be justifiable as existing or as canon or whatnot. Like, I believe Triborg is a concept that could theoretically be completely canon. It doesn't matter to me if he does shit or not. Same thing with Chameleon. They're background dressing. It would be nice. It'd be nice if they did stuff. Yeah, sure, but
like, I'm open to the possibility that Kintaro was alive the whole time because we don't have any concrete answer. So either way is perfectly valid for a person because it's opinion at this point. And it's just my opinion that it makes more sense if he was dead the whole time.
That's fair. To me, I'd like to think that he was around and still kicking just because I like the guy. I feel sorry for the guy, honestly.
I get it.
Needs more love. Really needs more love.
So here's the other thing. As far as feeling sorry for the guy goes, that'll really, like, bake your noodle.
We're done. We're already done. That's his story.
That's the whole thing. But there was a brief period of time where apparently when Deception came out, the devs asked on the Midway forums
Oh yes.
who should be in the GameCube version, who they should add, and they were. It was almost Fujin and Kintaro, but there was some kind of vote, and Shao Kahn and Goro won the vote, which is why both characters' stories from Deadly Alliance were utterly fucking ruined in Deception. So whoever voted for these two, you better hope I don't meet you on the street.
Burn in hell! Humans, much less ugly when they burn. We have one last bit of Kintaro trivia as concerns the original timeline. You know what it is.
Go ahead.
I guess I have to, don't I? I brought it up.
You did. You're on the hot seat now.
This is all my fault.
This is your show, buddy.
So, as we've covered in the past, Mortal Kombat Armageddon's endings are notable for two things.
Yep.
Being in the form of a kata on top of the Pyramid of Argus, no matter the character, and being absolutely asinine in 95% of all cases.
The most irrelevant, batshit insane stuff you've ever fucking read 9 times out of 10.
Written on a napkin at a diner at 3 a.m. after a meth bender material.
Nothing has ever been less canon than an Armageddon ending.
Planet Smoke. Teen Girl Squads. And here's Kintaro's. Upon defeating Blaze, a thunderous voice offered Kintaro 4 magic swords. Each would be infused with the power of any warrior of his choosing. Kintaro resolved to give the weapons the powers of fire, ice, chaos, and order. As if wielded by invisible hands, each blade found its victim and slew them. The vanquished souls were transferred to the weapons, and there they will reside. With the powers of Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Havoc, and Hotaru in his command, none will challenge Kintaro and live. I can't even make it. I just barely made it through it.
That was the last word anyway.
What the fuck? What?
But he's got 4 arms, though, man. He's got 4 hands, so let's give him 4 of something.
Okay. Kintaro Armageddon. God, I'm so glad I'm buzzed. Fighting styles. Refresh
You will not
me.
find.
What
You will
did
not
he
find
use?
4 swords. He used the same weapons Goro and Shiva used, gauntlets with spikes on the end.
Yes, exactly. Where the fuck do the swords come from? Out of all things, why fire, ice, order, and chaos?
Well, see, here's the thing. They all had gauntlets with spikes because that way they could use punching animations. They didn't have to animate 4 swords.
But why fire, ice, order, and chaos?
You know what I would use if I was a Shokan? If I was a video game developer giving a Shokan weapons? I would give him 4 pairs of nunchucks.
I'm surprised it's not been done, honestly.
So that he can hit himself in both eyes and both testicles at the same time.
That is how they treat him. Yes, he had saber teeth, they were called. You know, it's such a shame. I don't remember if we talked about this much during the Goro retrospective, but I feel like there's this whole capacity to develop really unique and interesting weapons that someone who had 2 arms on one side of their body could use. Like a double-handed shield that doubled also as, like, I don't know, a scimitar or something, or...
Literally pick any 4 things, have someone hold them at the same time, and it's interesting. It's immediately interesting.
2 Klingon bathlets in each hand, something, I don't know. There's so much to work with right there with this concept, and they just never do. Anyway, that ending was friggin' dumb, guys.
Yeah, that's one of the dumbest.
That's
one of the examples I bring up when I want to tell someone how dumb the endings in Armageddon were.
Yeah. And that ends Kintaro.
Yeah,
The
he's in
first
2
years.
games. 3 if you count Trilogy.
We've been recording for almost an hour. We didn't even make it an hour talking about this guy.
You know, a significant chunk of that hour was spent talking about other characters.
Oh my god. This is wrong. So that's the story of Kintaro in the original timeline, as sad as it is, as much of one as he actually had.
Indeed.
Always was a shame to me, you know? Coming out of MK2, I remember very distinctly that I thought this guy would be showing up regularly for a good long while. How wrong I was.
I mean, again, I think he's a more interesting design than Goro. And obviously he's stronger and more powerful than Goro, like, story-wise and kind of literally in his moveset. So, the fact that he just kind of disappeared into nothing, although the same thing kind of happened to both Motaro and Shiva too. Really, every Shokan and Centaur that isn't Goro just kind of gets treated like they don't matter and they didn't need to be there and it should have just been more Goro.
Well, Shiva got a nice run recently.
Yes. MK11 and the X comics before that did kind of attempt to rehabilitate her, but that's 1 out of 3, you know?
We can hope. Slow progress. Baby steps.
Maybe one day Kintaro will get his due. I mean, Motaro never will until NRS stop being babies about the idea of programming a fighter with horse legs.
If you thought today's episode was short, we got news for you. That shit's gonna be an ad break.
Maybe we should do Shiva and Motaro together when we do the loss for them.
I think that might be the best. I think that's probably the best idea.
Yeah, I think we might have to.
So there's one more little bit of trivia about Kintaro in the old days, such as it is. As with Jade and with Smoke, the Brady Games card game gave him a couple of unique and interesting finishers that he did not actually have at the time.
Actually, before we get into that, so, like, PlayStation Trilogy didn't have finishing moves for the bosses, right?
No, they did not.
N64 did, but it only had Kahn and Motaro, no
Yes.
Goro and Kintaro. Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, so this would be the only instance in the entire 2D era where any finishing move is created or suggested for Kintaro at all.
Unless you're counting Shang Tsung's third secret fatality.
True.
Which, yeah, I always in my mind, I always consider that a Kintaro fatality in spirit. Where he just punches your torso off and splits you in half.
I'm willing to count it.
There's some really great fan art along those lines where he's basically punching Kitana.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's
it's not just her upper body, but it's her torso and her arms and legs are kind of staying in place. I thought that'd be
I'm trying to remember the fan artist who did that because they used to post on MKO back in the day.
It's a pretty sick piece of work.
Was it Aculeus?
Might have been.
Well, if not, I apologize for not remembering who to correctly attribute that artwork to.
Yeah, it's Aculeus.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a really nice piece of artwork. Sorry for you Katana fans, but yeah.
I mean, it's well drawn.
Okay, no, it's not her arms and legs in place. He just punches. It's just really good fan art of the MK2 fatality.
Yeah.
So we're not alone in this. It's definitely the way that we picture Kintaro finishing someone off in the early days. I know I did.
Indeed.
So, the Brady Games customizable card game, as with Smoke and Jade, at the time, gave him a couple of finishers that he didn't have. One is called Torso Tear, and it kind of just looks like it might be the Punch Fatality or something. It's kind of hard to see because I'm looking at some really tiny card artwork here. Yeah, it's the MK2 Shang Tsung Fatality. That's what it is. They gave him a special move called Body Crush, where he just kind of squeezes you with all 4 of his arms. Which actually, if you think about it, kind of seems like a no-brainer move. I feel like a Shokan should have had that way, way, way long ago.
There's two. The first thing I think of when I think of what a Shokan should have for a fatality, one of them is, you know, all 4 hands grab an arm and a leg and pull it, draw and quarter you. Which one of them had an MK9. Was it him or Goro?
That was him. That was him.
All right, and then the second idea that I would think of is like some kind of bear hug, or some kind of crush.
It only makes sense.
I mean, I guess they never really had the opportunity, though, right?
I don't know. I feel like that's kind of a thing that they maybe could have done.
Well, Goro has certainly had multiple opportunities to have finishing moves.
Goro had the chest pound in MK1.
Yeah.
You could have used like the same wriggling and kind of writhing sprites to like have someone bear hug you.
Yeah.
And this
So here's the thing.
this isn't even a fatality, by the way. This is just a special move that they gave him.
Yeah.
Which is just really cool.
I mean, Goro had finishers in MK4, but they were reused from other characters. He had I believe he had Reiko's torso kick, and he had Johnny Cage's uppercut.
Yup. I mean, they both make sense.
In Deception, God, what did Goro do in Deception?
I don't remember.
Vaguely recall something with the grabbing and the pulling. Maybe Goro had the draw and quartering.
The grabbing
in
and the
Deception.
pulling and the glob and gliding.
The grabbing and the pulling and the gliving.
Oh, gliding. Okay, let's see.
Is anyone old enough to know what we're referencing there?
Probably not. Professor Frank, he makes you laugh, he makes you think. He has one where he kind of breaks out his Shokan claws and shanks you with them, then he stabs you with them, then grabs you on and stabs you in the head with them. That's the first one.
That sounds like one of the bad ones from the modern era where they do too many things that don't connect to each other in a row.
And the other one is grabs your arms, grabs your legs, pulls you, and yeah, he just pulls your arms and legs off.
Yeah. Okay, so Goro had the draw and quartering first.
Huh, how about that? Kintaro stole something from Goro in 9. Neat. But yeah, so for the Brady game's customizable card game, I guess, looking back on it, they gave him an artistic depiction of the Shang Tsung fatality, but they gave him his own friendship, and it's called Shadow Warriors. And it's this picture of him, like, leering back over the camera with a grimace over his own shoulder against a light source as he uses all 4 of his hands to make shadow puppets on a wall.
Oh, it's just Liu Kang's.
Yep. Ah, the thievery.
It's not as creative as Jade turning someone into Jade.
Not quite, but 4 hands is more fingers to work
I
with.
could have at least
I get
done
the logic.
like a flamethrower you to death with his fire breath, you know? That's one I might have come up with in their shoes.
Oh, we're struggling. So much of this conversation is what we would have done for him.
So
And it's
all that
sad-
really leaves...
you know what's sad when you think about it? Those Goro fatalities I just talked about,
Yeah,
that's what he would have gotten if he were in Deception. Let's not fool ourselves.
probably. So all that leaves for the Midway era is Shaolin Monks,
Yeah.
which might somehow be his meatiest role, even though he only does the same thing that he does in MK2. Like, he only appears to be the second to last boss fight in the game. So story-wise, in Shaolin Monks, you're wandering all over fucking Outworld, collecting medallions after you beat random people because Shang Tsung told you to while pretending to be Raiden. And then you get to Kahn's arena, and Shao Kahn says, "You're not even supposed to be here. Unwanted, uninvited."
I'm gonna have so much fun. Next episode, oh man.
Which is literally the opposite of the story of MK2.
I think that then he asks the crowd what they want or something after you fight Shang Tsung and you kill him.
Yeah, you kill Shang Tsung, and the crowd starts chanting Kintaro's name. So out comes Kintaro. Shao Kahn is like, all right, well, here's the... He doesn't say it in so many words, but the implication is that Kintaro is the champion of the gladiator arena, and that's his role in this version of the MK universe. And that's why Shao Kahn brings him out to fight them next.
Yeah, he's
and
like,
why the crowd is chanting for him.
My people have spoken.
Yeah. And Kintaro comes out and he's like waving to the crowd and posing, you know, he's
almost blowing kisses.
He's doing like the Hulk Hogan flexes. So
it's a really cool moment, honestly. I like it.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of it. And the thing is that, like we said, Kintaro doesn't have a backstory. He's just introduced in MK2 as this warrior that King Gorbak gives Kahn to replace Goro. So the idea that his like previous job before MK2 was that he's the champion in the gladiator arena, that he's like the best gladiator in Outworld, and that this is like a thing that he does and the crowd recognizes him and chants for him, that's the most character he's ever gotten.
It's cool. I'm watching it right now and he's like waving to them. It's so nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does this huge flying leap into the arena. He's intimidating as all fuck. Screams at them.
He was a hard boss fight.
I don't remember him being that bad, actually. Shao Kahn was terrible, but him...
Oh, Shao Kahn is the worst because when you get him down to half health, he starts covering the entire battlefield with his spinning hammer.
Yeah, and it's just a series of long jumps away to stay away from him.
Kintaro was harder than Shang Tsung because there was an exploit against Shang where if you did the grab where you sit on top of their shoulders, you can like just smack him repeatedly.
Ah, okay.
And you could trap him in that for like normally as you're fighting Shang, he will periodically interrupt your combos by blowing you backwards and morphing into another form. But if you get this grab on him and you just keep slapping him in the head, you can kind of negate his ability to escape and like take down his whole health bar. But Kintaro, you had to like fight him for real, and he was doing like his MK2 moves, the way too many fireballs, the teleport stomp.
He does consecutive teleport stomps, actually.
Yeah,
he jumps
he
all
does
over
like,
the arena.
He does like 5 or 6 in a row.
You gotta like watch where the shadow's appearing to and be able to dodge it properly.
Yeah, it is kind of easier because it's 3D, but
like the strategy I remember working very well against him was just run up, do a flying kick, hit him a few times, then just get the fuck out. Like attack him a couple of times, then run.
You have to hit and run. You can't complete a combo on the bosses because they all knock you back.
Yes. Does his roar too?
But the bosses, I just remember the bosses that have like repeat projectiles being really difficult to deal with as opposed to everybody else because they could like fire multiple in a row and you just had to be on the defense and get lucky dodging because sometimes you'd like leap to the left and the next fireball was heading that direction and you screwed up. You know, like him and Reptile. Those were the ones that I remember having the hardest time with other than Shao Kahn.
Did Kintaro have a fatality that he did on you if you lost?
No, here's the weird thing. If Kintaro beats you, Shao Kahn does his fatality instead. He does the whole thing where he walks out there with the hammer and he gives a thumbs up and then, nope, thumbs down, and then he smacks you with the hammer and you fly backwards into his throne.
Oh, man.
Kintaro did not have his own.
His one great appearance in the old school days, and
but
that's a shame.
It's funny because when you beat him and you do the fatality to him, it is for no real reason the most cruel and violent fatality in the game.
Yeah, it's unpleasant to watch. Okay, so your character, like, as Kintaro's on his knees, your character jumps up toward him with a punch. Kintaro catches their second fist. Your character kicks Kintaro in the stomach, grabs his lower arms, rips them off, does a flip kick over to his face, lands on his back, grabs them around the back, rips another one of his arms
Yeah, they
completely
just start
off.
scrambling around his torso, climbing on him like a monkey, ripping the arms off one by one until all four are gone.
Slides under his legs, grabs the other arm, kicks him in the face, rips off the fourth arm. Kintaro has no arms and he's on his knees. Your character gently walks up to him, grabs him by the neck, puts a foot to his stomach, and starts pulling, and blood starts coming out of everywhere around his neck until his head comes off and bounces on the ground.
And then,
What the fuck?
in the next fight against Shao Kahn, you can pick up the head and throw it at Kahn
my
multiple times.
Why? You poor bastard.
Like, Kintaro didn't do anything exceptionally mean to them. Like, there are other villains in the game who are actively dicks and not just someone they have to fight because it's an Outworlder. But no, this guy's got to get it the worst.
Never has a character been the recipient of so much abuse for so little.
He can't even kill you back. Shao Kahn steals it.
Christ. Well, that's Kintaro's illustrious history from
Yeah, that's all.
1994 to roughly 2006. Jesus. I mean, it got a little better, kind of.
I mean, he had a cool entrance.
Yeah, it was something.
He also had a cool entrance in that Armageddon intro.
He did. He had a few moments. Had a lot more painful ones, though. So I guess...
Was Armageddon the first game where he had a cat nose?
Is this where we talk about design?
We don't have to. I'm just asking.
I think that we should talk about... Maybe we should talk about design now. We'll talk about his
Well, there's
MK2
only one
design.
game left. There's only one game left.
That's what I'm saying. We'll talk about his MK2 design, we'll talk about his Armageddon design, and we'll segue into 9.
Okay.
So as we discussed already, his 2 design is probably the best that there is, honestly. It's simple, it's a nice enough variation on Goro's design.
Yeah.
It's enough to set him apart visually, distinctively. He's bulkier, he's beefier.
I mean, there are some interesting nuances to the MK2 design, like because it's like tiny and from a distance sprite work. Does he have a beard? Or does he just have like the white coloration as opposed to the orange where the stripes are and all that? Like, is it just in the shape of where a beard would be? Or does he actually have a beard and it's like...
You know, it's tough to say, actually.
It's kind of like the Homer Simpson, isn't it?
A little bit. We actually almost forgot something, but now that we're here, we can talk about it. So every game has its unused assets, right?
Yeah.
There is an unused asset picture for Kintaro from MK2. And it's from this that the MK trilogy picture for his select screen picture is sourced. It's a full body shot of Kintaro from roughly like the thighs upwards.
Right. I know what picture you're talking about now.
And for this, they kind of just cropped the head for the headshot for a select photo in trilogy. That's probably the best old school look we have at his face, and yeah, it's kind of a Homer Simpson stubbly effect, it looks like.
Well, here's the interesting thing. So there are subtle cat-like features. Like, he does have a smaller and more pushed up nose as opposed to Goro, but it's not like colored black.
No.
And in the sprite, like, his upper lip doesn't really look like a cat's mouth, but in the MK2 comic, he does appear to have like the sort of, you know how cats have the split from their nose to their upper lip?
Yes.
He kind of has that.
The features are definitely there.
It's subtle, but it's there. And he has like more fanged canines than Goro has. And the biggest difference is, so Goro and Shiva have like red eyes where you can't even see the pupils. It's like solid red. Kintaro has yellow eyes with slit pupils, like a cat.
The feline features were always there.
Yeah, they were there. They're just not like from Armageddon on, he has a little black cat nose, and it really messes up the design. It just makes him look like a cutesy cartoon, like a furry character.
Neko-chan is so kawaii. It's fucking terrible. I can't stand
it. It does not work. It does not.
Like, you give something a cat nose. I think he had whiskers in Armageddon. Let me just check.
He had like the freckles for whiskers, but they didn't have like the long, thick hairs.
Yeah, it's just, I appreciate some of the aspects that the Armageddon design tried to give him. As far as different costumes go, I kind of like the single saber-tooth shoulder pads. That they look kind of, I don't know, like Genghis Khan, Mongolian-esque, perhaps. I thought that was a cool idea.
I like the costume. It's just kind of the one he was always wearing, but more decorated.
Yeah. It's not terrible, but like, the nose, though, you don't...
The nose I don't like. Now, here's the thing I do like, is they remodeled his hands and feet so that he's got, like, paw pads on the palms and long claws for fingernails.
I never really actually noticed the paw pads, huh?
And then he's got, like, digit-grade feet, like an animal.
Yeah.
Now, that's a little weird, because traditionally Shokan have two-toed Ninja Turtle feet, and this cat foot has, like, 4 or 5 toes.
You need to make sure that he still looks like he's of the same species as Goro.
That's the thing. That's the weird thing, is, like, how much anatomy can you change and still buy it as a Shokan?
I think that, that's what subtly bothers me about it. It's a few steps too far.
I can forgive more if we knew where the Tigrar bloodline comes from, why they look like tigers, you know? If we had some kind of explanation. Because, like, obviously the story that the Shokan are half human, half dragon, that implies that once upon a time there was a full-blooded dragon and a full-blooded human who had a kid, and that kid was the first Shokan, and somehow that Shokan made more Shokan.
Hooked up with Chitara from Thundercats along the way, and this is the result.
I guess.
See, yeah, that's it, right? Like, when you start looking like you're a member of the Thundercats, it's time to take a couple of steps back.
Yeah, that's a little far.
You can't make the appearance too feline related. Cats are cute, right? This is the thing. Cats are adorable.
Well, I kind of, even so, like, obviously this is the big problem with the nose and the whisker spots, but I kind of like the digigrade feet, because they have these giant claws on them, so it actually does make them look more dangerous.
Yeah, I see where... I can kind of agree, but I think that maybe he should have less toes.
Yeah, there's probably an in-between they could find that would fit the anatomy of the species.
Interestingly enough, actually, Storm Collectibles, while we're on this topic, is about set to put out a Kintaro figure, and that was a really noticeable change that they made, was that the toy version of Kintaro has the digigrade feet. He does not have the MK2 feet.
Ah. Because otherwise, it looks like MK2, like he has the MK2
Yeah, it's
face,
totally MK2, apart from the feet. I've heard it's been delayed recently. Maybe they're, I don't know, giving him an extra pair of legs from the knees down? Who knows? I do remember that a criticism that the Storm Goro had was that the fucker would not stand up, so maybe these feet are designed to be sturdier.
Yeah, that could be it.
But anyhow...
Well, I'm looking at pictures of the Storm Kintaro now, and I am also noticing that the knee pads are kind of an original design. They're not one-to-one with MK2. They still have that, like, layered look, like that turtle shell look, but they've got spikes on them.
Looking at it now. Oh, this isn't gonna bother me now. God damn it. Can't win them all.
The other thing that bugs me about the Armageddon design, like I already said, I don't know, an hour ago maybe, is the ponytail. It just I have two problems with this braid. First of all, his entire body is already covered in hair. How is this one small spot on the back of his head growing longer hair in a different color than the rest of him?
I didn't even think about it in those terms, you know? I look at it and like it's like I like the idea of a Shokan with a braid, but maybe the hair should just I mean a Tigrar with like a giant mane tied back into a braid would be pretty cool, but you've got a pretty good point there.
Yeah, I don't like if you look at MK2 Kintaro, should there be a black circle on the back of his head that he shaves off? Like how does this ponytail? Is he constantly manscaping the rest of his body? Why is there long hair here and nowhere else? Because the other Shokan aren't hairy, they're scaly, so that's not a problem for them to have a ponytail. The Tigrar cannot have a ponytail. It's a cat.
Oh, we're having fun. We're having so much fun here.
The second problem I have with it is it's just like it's another one Shokan stealing from another thing. Like it makes him look too much like Goro.
That's true. Goro's kind of already got the trademark down.
Goro's the ponytail guy, and Kintaro's the bald guy. And you will notice that in MK9 they did not bring the braid back.
No, they did not. The 9 design. The 9 design.
Mortal Kombat 9 Kintaro.
It's an improvement over the Armageddon basic visual, I think.
Yeah. It's very back to basics. It's very similar to plain MK2. The only real things they did is like all of his armor, the shoulder pads, the wristbands, they have like a black inside colored. And then like the buckle on his X straps doesn't have that shuriken design. Instead it looks like a cat's eye.
Yeah.
It's got like a amber jewel with a slit pupil design. Which I like that. I think
it's great. It's pretty cool.
I think it should still have the shuriken points, but the cat's eye thing, like his weapons in Armageddon were decorated with the cat's eye thing, so it's like not the first time we've seen that on him. So I thought even before 9 put it on the design that it should have been on the harness buckle. So it just felt like a natural thing for them to do. But then obviously the black nose and the whisker spots are more pronounced even than they were in Armageddon. So.
Yeah, that's the major downturn. Nah.
They also like
too far with the nose.
His head isn't the same shape anymore. Like if you look at MK2 Kintaro, he's got a very wide, blocky Hulk-like jawline. And then in MK9, like his whole facial structure is different. It's more skinny and like I think he has black lips too. Like they made that more cat-like. And he's wearing earrings. His ears are even pointier than they were before.
I like the idea of the earrings, though, actually.
The earrings I kind of like. Like, there's almost I don't know, like an Arabian genie kind of look to him when you combine, like, the armor with the earrings. There's something about it. Maybe it's also... Maybe I've seen cat-like genies before in something, I don't know, but it feels reminiscent of something I can't place.
Hang on a second.
It's for some reason.
I think I know what it is. Let me see. Okay, no, it's not Panthera. I was just checking, you know, odds are it was probably something from Thundercats.
He does look a lot like Panthro.
That's
Just
it.
orange and white instead of blue.
Panthro did not have earrings, though, unfortunately.
No. Okay. He had nunchucks.
He did. Hint, hint. We didn't mention, he's got an interesting symbol on his loincloth in the Armageddon costume. What is that?
Yeah. I assume that it's
Maybe it's a Tigrar symbol?
something they kind of made up.
It's like two quasi-bothlets back-to-back or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it kind of looks like the handles of a hook sword,
Yeah.
but like symmetrical.
It's a neat symbol. I'd like to see it come back, if it means anything. They reverted to giving him the Shokan emblem on his belt buckle in 9.
Yeah.
Which, you know, great attention to detail. Always like to see it.
I do wish there was some way to have the yin yangs and the Shokan stick figure. Because it seemed like in the 3D era, those two logos were able to exist at the same time, but in the NRS era, one has eaten the other.
I mean, what I do is, you know, Goro with a big-ass red cape is a well-established image. It works. I would keep the yin-yang on his belt, and I would emblazon, like, the back of his cape with the Shokan symbol as a stamp of royalty.
I can see that. That wouldn't look bad.
Or, like, as a badge or something.
Yeah, there's got to be ways to do it. I mean, Kintaro has room for multiple logos because he's got the buckle of his X harness, he's got a belt buckle, he's got a loincloth. At least in Armageddon and 9 he does. There's room for more symbols put on there. Although I do wonder, so the MK9 introduced the backstory for why there are two Shokan ethnicities.
Before we get to that, I'm just going to point out that I still think that out of all the costumes, in terms of the shoulder pads, 2 remains the king, because those Super Shredder spikes are really, really something to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
They're really eye-catching, they make his design kind of pop. In 9, he just kind of had, like, 2 rows of 3 stand-up spikes like Shao Kahn does. It's not quite enough to make it work.
No, the big curled ones are much more sort of iconic, more original looking.
Yeah.
It's funny to say original looking when they were stolen from a
Shredder. And I do like the Armageddon single major, like I said before, single spikes on his knees and his shoulders, but I think that's the kind of thing that works best for an alternate.
Yeah. Yeah. So the one other difference that like 9 did to Kintaro is like he doesn't have a red belt and there's chainmail on the loincloth. Cause like obviously MK2, Goro, and Kintaro just wore underpants. But I guess they felt that they wanted more material on them so that they could be a little more decorative, a little less plain.
Yeah.
So they've got loincloths in 9, and Kintaro's is chainmail. And I like there's an attention to detail on the chainmail where there's like a few spots where rungs are missing. It looks a little battle damaged.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do appreciate that they did that, because it would be so easy to just slap a uniform texture on there and call it a day.
One thing I'm glad has remained consistent from design to design is the inclusion of spiked wrist gauntlets.
Yeah.
Wrist bracelets. It's subtle, but it actually kind of really adds to him, you know?
Yeah,
Think
well,
about
it matches the shoulder and the knee pads.
Yeah.
There's symmetry isn't quite the right word, but there is like a thematic. It's nice when
The
pieces
motif
match.
is consistent.
You know, the top of the body with the ends of the limbs.
Yeah. Look at us spending all this time talking about Kintaro's design. There's things we can talk about. We're at an hour and a half. We can keep this going for a little bit.
We should get into MK9 though.
We should. We've been putting it off a
formally.
bit.
So as we said, Kintaro had a bio in 9. It can be found in the game's code, and it has been posted on MK Warehouse. It just was not actually viewable in game because Goro and Kintaro did not get their own arches in the, what was it called, Nether something?
The
The
Necropolis.
Necropolis, yeah, the part of the crypt where you view the things you've unlocked. The bosses didn't get their own arches, but there's evidence that they were supposed to. So, Kintaro's bio reads as follows. Like Goro and Shiva, Kintaro is of the four-armed Shokan race. Unlike his aristocratic comrades, however, he is of lower-class Tigrar lineage. As is customary when recruiting Shokan and Centaur into Shao Kahn's service, one of each race must face each other in bloody combat. Kintaro killed his opponent and, in an unprecedented act of bravado, roared for more Centaur blood. Centaurs leapt furiously into the ring to their demise. This savagery led Shao Kahn to appoint Kintaro his personal bodyguard. So, the first thing in there is obviously like the naming of his ethnicity, the Tigrar, and then in Goro and Shiva's bios and endings, they established that the other ones are called the Draco. So they also in those other bios describe it as a caste system, like India used to have, which it implies like a heavily institutionalized racism. So, like, Goro and Shiva are of the ruling class. They are of the same family, too, like they're cousins. I think it was elaborated on in the MKX comic. And the Tigrar aren't just the commoners, they're like...
They're
even below
citizens.
That. Yeah, they're like... This is kind of a thing that I think I have a difficulty with, is to have a caste system, you kind of need more than two. Like, to have like a lower class slave race and a ruling class, you need the commoners in between. So there needs to be like a third kind of Shokan invented.
There's room. I'd like to see it happen.
There is room. But yeah, so Kintaro's people are victims of racism. They are the lowest class. And Kintaro has sought out his fortune outside of the Shokan, outside of the Kingdom of Kuatan, because Shao Kahn doesn't give a fuck about Shokan racism. He just wants the best fighters.
That's it. That's all there is to it. Shao Kahn wants the best of the best. He doesn't particularly care about either of their races in general.
Right, so there is room for upward mobility. There's no glass ceiling for Kintaro in Kahn's army the way there would be if he stayed in Kuatan. Which is interesting to me, then, that he would wear a Shokan logo at all, because it almost paints the picture that Kintaro should be disloyal to the Shokan race. Like, he should not get along with Goro and Shiva and King Gorbak.
I mean,
he should be like...
It's still very possible that he respects...
At the very least, bitter about it, you know?
I mean, he might hate the ruling class, but he might respect them as warriors.
Suppose that's possible. But if you can prove you're stronger than them, which I think MK2 Kintaro could have done, although MKX Comic Kintaro kind of gets the opportunity and repeatedly is depicted as dumb and weak.
Oh boy. But on that note, though, I really loved this edition.
It is nice to have some backstory on why the Tigrar look different.
What makes him different, like how... Yeah. What his place is in the story, his background, something a little bit more than just Shao Kahn's general.
I also kind of appreciate that they worked the gladiator aspect into it. Like,
Yeah,
you could kind of see how this bio combines with the reception he got in Shaolin Monks.
I think that they definitely looked back on that intro as a source of inspiration when they were designing this.
They're also like, Kintaro being Kahn's personal bodyguard feels like they're trying to explain why he's the second to last fight in MK2. Like Shao Kahn would go, I know I said I was the final challenge, but before anyone fights me, they have to fight my bodyguard.
Want to get me, gotta come through him.
Now, personally, I would rather see, like, if MK2 were being remade as a game again, and they were trying to give a bracket that makes sense, I would like to see Kintaro entered at the beginning, just like everybody else, and actually have a few fights. And, like, dominate his matches and make it to the end as, like make it into the finals with Liu Kang the long way. Because then we'd get to see more of him, you know?
Yeah.
And it would kind of make more sense than trying to find an excuse why anyone other than Shao Kahn gets to skip to the end.
This really, though, this new origin story for him, it really is completely incompatible with the way MK2's comic originally told it.
Yeah,
someone like this
like,
would
again,
not be working for Gorback.
Yeah, in the MK2 comic, he is literally volunteered into Kahn's service by the king. If this bio were around at the time, then you could do the same scene, but Gorback would have the opposite opinion. Like, Shao Kahn would be like, well, if we're preparing to attack Earthrealm, I want this guy on my team because he's the greatest fighter in the gladiator arena, and he'll rip everybody to shreds, and I think he might even be stronger than your son Goro. And Gorback would be like, you can't send a Tigrar to represent my people.
Don't send a cat to do a dragon's job. I think I actually might like this version a little bit better, honestly.
I like it better too. So that brings us to his MK9 ending.
Yes.
And
it's a special little thing.
What's interesting is, so the bios and endings, like we said, for the boss characters were leaked in a text file. Somebody like hacked the MK9 demo before the game itself came out. So we had a whole bunch of spoilers before the game launched. But there's actually video too. It's clearly rough, unfinished graphics, but it's on YouTube, so
yeah, give that a check out. It's worth a watch. There's some cool stuff in there.
Yeah,
I think the video is from the complete edition. It says.
What's interesting to me is that as unfinished as these endings are, they're still more finished than Cyber Sub-Zero's, which was in the game.
It makes me think that whatever considerations went into excluding Kintaro, Goro, and Kahn from the endgame probably balance, is my guess.
Yeah.
They might not have looked any better than they do currently, but probably by a little bit. They were plainly really ready to throw these guys in the game. They were planned out and everything.
I mean, I think it's interesting that 9 is the only NRS era game where they didn't like try to make the bosses playable. Well, I guess Chronica never did come out as DLC. There was a rumor of that for a while, but yeah, like
nobody wants or needs that.
Not really. And that is kind of why they made Geras anyway. But there was clearly an effort in like 75% of the time to balance a form of the boss so you could still play it while also having the overpowered version in the arcade ladder. And they just didn't have the time or didn't think to or didn't want to put in the effort to do that with MK9's bosses. Because like
I tend to think that it was a matter of conscious choice.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is
they very much wanted MK9 to be a really good tournament fighter.
Yeah.
And they succeeded. And I think that they just went, this is going to be more of a hassle than it's actually
I'm
worth.
just saying,
so
you look at
just
like
forget it.
X having a playable Goro and 11 having a playable Shao Kahn, and they found a way to balance them. And it's like with 9, when you get to play Goro or Shao Kahn in the challenge tower, you can see from their buttons that they're programmed the way the bosses used to be programmed in the arcade games. Like, remember when you'd play the home version of UMK3 or play MK Trilogy, and their normals were mapped differently than everyone else was, and their special moves were mapped to normals? They're missing a whole bunch of moves, like they can't duck, and they only have like one high punch and one high kick and that kind of thing. That's
Kind of feeling about
the
a Mortal
way they
Kombat
played
boss
in.
character.
That's the same way they played in 9 too. Like it's like we're only gonna give them half the moves of a character because we don't intend them to be playable. So it's all these shortcuts. But yeah, clearly at some point in development, like bios and endings were written because there was an early plan to have them be playable, and they changed their mind.
They were probably initially developed as like normal playable characters, but they just switched back to default. I don't know.
Anyway,
Their initial boss settings. So Kintaro gets an ending.
yeah.
Goro gets an ending. Shao Kahn gets an ending. Y'all want to read it?
Be my guest. I read the bio.
So Kintaro's meteoric rise to glory in the service of Shao Kahn had inflated his ego and his hunger for exaltation. But his position as the Emperor's bodyguard had stifled any opportunity for further achievement or recognition, save one. After killing Shao Kahn, the most powerful being in Outworld, Kintaro's fame had grown indeed. He had achieved the notoriety of a traitor. Now hunted by the Centaur, Tarkatan, and Shokan, Kintaro lives a life of exile, a victim of his own infamy.
And this last shot is the best one because it's like
it's priceless for so many reasons.
So it's like a still render of Kintaro, positioned to look like he's hiding behind a rock, and on the other side of this rock is like an open. On his right-hand side, they have literally taken the shot of the centaurs running across the desert from the MK3 Attract Mode demo.
It's wonderful. It's literally copy-pasted from the Attract Mode.
Yes.
There are no shadows on anything except for like
the centaurs are all blurry and the centaurs are all blurry and pixely because it's been resized hastily. On the left-hand side, it's the same desert background, but there's a couple random Tarkatans taken from the artwork in Baraka's MK9 ending, and a couple Shokan taken from the artwork of Shiva's MK9 ending. And behind them is a row of, I think it's supposed to look like a silhouetted army of soldiers. But they look a little bit like terracotta statues, or more specifically, they look like piles of dung, like brown-colored Michelin men. Or like a bunch of like stacked fertility idols. I don't know what's going on back there.
They're probably a tiny asset from someone else's ending or something that we've never really paid much attention to.
I can't
guess.
place the source, but
it's anyway, the whole thing's hilarious for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Kintaro done fucked up.
I mean, even if you get past all the like unfinished imagery being funny, I just like that he's like cowering behind a rock.
Y'all, I always would have wondered like what an ending for Kintaro would have been like, and this is the answer.
This is a pretty creative way to go. Like most of the bad guy kills Kahn endings throughout the series just end with the guy who killed him taking the throne in his place. I think this is the only one where somebody kills him, and all of Outworld turns on them, and they have to go on the run.
Nobody likes you, you bastard. Yeah, it's worth mentioning that in the shot before he starts cowering behind the rock, at the point where he's ripped Shao Kahn's head off and the headless corpse is like sitting back on the Colosseum throne, he's being observed by placeholder images of Baraka and Motaro.
Yeah.
So yeah, guess who's leading up the charge to avenge Kahn?
There is more screen time for centaurs in this unused ending than there is in the entire rest of the game.
Arguably, the next 3 games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Kintaro's ending, poor bastard. I'm taking a screen cap of this face and it's becoming an emoji in the Discord. It's wonderful.
So then in story mode, Kintaro doesn't show up until he fulfills his role as the second to last fight of MK2. And he doesn't have any speaking lines, so nothing different, nothing out of the ordinary so far.
History as usual.
Yep, it's playing out how you'd expect. But then after he gets beaten, he continues to show up during the invasion because he doesn't die in MK9.
It's Kung Lao that fights him, though, yeah? It's Kung Lao that fights him and
Kung Lao beats him, doesn't kill him, and then Shao Kahn snaps Kung Lao's neck, and Liu Kang has the final battle with Kahn.
Best moment in the series.
So Kintaro...
He's avenged.
Kintaro gets a sort of important role in the invasion as the guy who gives Cabal his scars.
And he gets the line, humans, less ugly when they burn.
Yeah, he actually gets to speak, so that's nice.
We've talked about this before. Like, I know that you don't particularly care for Kintaro being the guy that does it because...
Well, here's my sticking point.
There's no personal stakes, yeah?
Yeah, my sticking point with it is that when Cabal wakes up with the gas mask and everything, he doesn't want revenge on Kintaro. He doesn't even know who Kintaro is. As far as he's concerned, the person who burned him is just a random faceless mook in Shao Kahn's army, and Shao Kahn is the one he needs revenge against.
Some circular logic there, but okay.
He even blames Kano because Kano was working for Kahn, but Kano had nothing to do with it. And I don't mind him blaming Kano. In fact, I think that is a good idea for the story. I just wish Kano had something to do with it. My preferred version of how Cabal gets his scars would have seen a whole extermination squad fight the guy.
You see,
and
his
the fire.
You see,
and
his
the fire
father was
comes
a
from a.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would like to see Cabal have had to fight off an entire extermination squad at once, and for the fire to have come from a flamethrower, an earth weapon that the Black Dragons gave to the Outworlders. Then Cabal would have a reason to blame Kano.
Yeah. Well, this is more food for the Cabal retrospective, but like
right.
I've had like thoughts about how it would be possible to naturally fit Cabal into the ongoing plot of MK3 and have him in this position where he gets attacked by an extermination squad.
Yeah. I just the thing of it is, and your argument was it was nice that they gave Kintaro something important to do.
Listen, man, I'm not denying that I reek of desperation.
I appreciate where you're coming from. I just don't think it does register as giving him something important to do when nobody remembers he was the one who did it.
You know, they don't even acknowledge his name in 11. When, like, young Cabal finds out, like, he gets scarred. I think they blame Sonya for it.
Yeah, Kano tricks Cabal into thinking it was Sonya so that he'll fight her.
And there was a line like, it wasn't her, it was, shut up, I don't care. They don't even get his name out the goddamn door. Oh my god.
So after that, we see Goro and Kintaro guarding prisoners. There's a bunch of like U.S. military, like army soldiers who've been captured because Quan Chi has to sacrifice people to create the Soulnado that steals everybody on Earth's souls in this version of things, which is different from how it happened at MK3, but whatever. And so Goro and Kintaro are guarding them, and Cyber Sub-Zero has come to rescue them. And Cyber Sub-Zero freezes both of the Shokan long enough to have a whole fight with Kano that they're just out of the fight because they're frozen in blocks of ice. And then after he beats Kano, the Shokan break the ice with their strength. And Cyber Sub-Zero beats both Shokan at the same time.
Okay, look. I can buy that Sub-Zero's ice is potent enough to hold someone, even a Shokan like Kintaro, for a couple of minutes if he piles it on thick enough. I don't care what cyber ninja you are, you're not taking down, like, Outworld's champion of Mortal Kombat, and the guy who's stronger than him and hits like 10 Mack trucks.
I mean, this is part of a systematic embarrassing of Goro throughout MK9. Like, ever since...
It's also a real big problem with MK9 story mode in general. We mentioned this last time on the Smoke retrospective. As much as Smoke is my favorite character, there's no way in hell he should be able to fight Shang Tsung and Kano at the same time and come out. It's just a cheap way to do endurance fights and mesh them into a story mode, and more often than not, you come away scratching your head.
Yeah,
and this is one of the more egregious examples of it.
So obviously, if you go back and listen to the Goro Lost, I'm sure that we went point by point of all the ways MK9 was an embarrassing appearance for Goro, and how they don't treat him as the champion of Mortal Kombat at all, and that he just keeps jobbing to people who's like, Kung Lao's life's ambition is to fight Goro, and when he finally does it, he doesn't even like notice that he's doing it. So him and Kintaro getting jobbed out to Sub-Zero then is just another one on the pile, and I don't have a lot more to say about it. Other than I think at least if he had died during MK2, it would have spared him the embarrassment of continuing to lose in other fights.
At least Kintaro came out of this smelling a bit better than Goro did.
Yeah.
Just a bit.
If only because he had less to lose.
I think that's the last time you see him in story mode.
Yeah, that is it. Kintaro does appear a few times in the MKX comic book, despite not appearing at all in the MKX game.
And the most notable part about his appearance in the MKX comic book is that in almost no two panels is he drawn the same way.
No, his face looks different. Even within the same issue, like, one artist can't be consistent with himself.
Sometimes he looks like a shaggy tiger man, other times he looks like a thundercat. There's a few panels where he looks like a fox. It's really all over the place.
Yeah, that's the part that bothered me the most, is that more of the panels look like that original Tony the Tiger unused MK2 design than look like what Kintaro is supposed to look like.
I made a meme ages and ages ago when the Nethercast first was getting started, and it was just a series of collage. It was just this collage of every single time you saw his face in that comic and older comics and the Malibu comics, and the caption was just, "Who the fuck are these people?"
That's the other thing that's weird to me, is that Kintaro is the only Tigrar that appears in the comic, despite the fact that the comic has, like, these wide shots of Shokan armies. This was a huge opportunity to show, like, a lot of variety, like multiple Draco, multiple Tigrar, males and females.
That would be cool.
And the only one with tiger stripes is Kintaro. The only one. But as far as what he actually does in the comic,
he's still working for King Gorbak, and he's out to avenge Goro's defeat and mutilation at Kotal Khan's hands.
Yeah.
They show up at Zunkara, joined by Oni warlords, yes, I'm reading off the wiki, to begin the siege on the city. He meets
There was a long arc where, like, Kotal is defending his city against a Shokan army, and Sonya and Kano show up to, or Sonya and Johnny show up to help, and then Kano and the Black Dragons help too, and they set off a nuke to win the war.
If I remember, there's a point where, like, Devora, I think it is talking to him, offering, like, a scroll for a treaty, and I think he takes it and he rips it up and he spits on the damn thing. It's like his one really cool moment in the entire series.
Well, I can't remember what Shokan killed the Irish Special Forces guy with the flat top.
I think it was one of the only
big
warlords.
Mustache. Was it an only warlord?
I think so. Hang on, I'm gonna hunt for it.
Because I thought Kintaro might have been in that scene, but what was that guy's name? Sean Shamrock or something like that.
Oh God.
It was very stereotypical.
That's issue 15.
I just remember that guy. I always call that guy Sheamus because he looks like a WWE wrestler named Sheamus.
Okay. There we go. Cool ass panel of Shokan marching for Zunkara. Kintaro's front and center. He looks like a very old Panthor. Shiva's next to him. Literally everyone else is just generic Shokan. There's a dinosaur back there with a disturbingly human-like face. I don't know what the artist was doing there, but okay. What else have we got here? Man, it really makes me actually miss...
I found it.
Makes me miss having an MK comic book.
Yeah, this Sean guy gets split, his head gets split down the middle by a Oni Warlord's axe. Yeah, Kintaro was not involved in that scene. Yeah, I only remember Kintaro really factoring into the war at the beginning when they're like trying to parlay.
Yeah. He's talking to Devora and she goes, "Hail, Lord Kintaro of the Honorable Shokan. This one is Devora, Deputy. I've never parlayed with a woman before, especially not one as repellent as you. Your mighty Emperor Kotal Kahn offers these terms. Generous reparations for..." And he takes the scroll she's offering him and just throws it off to the side. "The Shokan do not seek your charity. Kotal Kahn will surrender to King Gorbak or our army will raise Zunkara. You have 1 hour. This one speaks on Kotal Khan's behalf. He will never surrender. Then Zunkara will fall an hour early." And then they get right the fuck into it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of 2 major scenes he has. Maybe 3.
That's all he really does during the war, I think. The main part of the comic where he really factors in is so Gorbak is killed and Goro has been banished because he got his arms cut off and the Shokan don't want like a cripple as their leader. So they hold like a tournament to determine who the new king is, and Shiva wins it. And from that moment on, like once the Shokan start showing up in the comic with Shiva as their leader, like every time her and Kintaro have a scene together, he says or does something that's like against her orders and is stupid. And she, like, makes him look like an idiot.
Yeah, he's pretty much played for laughs after that initial scene. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, there's a bit where, the Shokan have allied with Kotal Kahn to sail to Shang's Island, because that's where Reiko and Havoc are doing the big bad guy plot at the end of the comic. And they're going there to, like, stop them. And so the Shokan are on a boat, waiting in the waters near the island, and Shiva has, like, ordered them to keep their distance, but Kintaro is like, "Fuck that, we're going in." And then Havoc takes he takes Shinnok's amulet and blasts the shit out of their boat. And so as Shiva and Kintaro swim to shore, from their destroyed boat, she's just like, "You fucking idiot! I told you not to get this close."
Because of course the cat can't swim.
Right,
Of course.
right. And
He gets a moment earlier on, actually, with Goro, before all this happens. After Goro's crippled, while they're burning Gorbak's body, he talks to him and he's like, "The Draco and Tigor families reached a decision. Spare the formalities. Your injuries disqualify your claim to the throne. When the battle is over, a contest will be held in the ancient tradition, a battle for the crown. And what if I enter that contest? Careful, Goro. You're crippled and your father's not here to protect you." I like that exchange. I do. There's no love lost
it's not
there.
bad. It feels in character. Now here's the real the moment we've been building up to. Once everybody gets onto Shang's island and starts fighting Havoc's forces, Havoc has used blood magic to control the minds of a bunch of the good guys. Raiden, Sonya, Cassie and Jackie, etc.
ABACABB.
Sonya, during the fighting, in like the background of a panel, is shown ripping Kintaro's head off.
I'm not sure if it's the background. Hang on. I remember it being pretty up front.
Well, I think in the panels preceding the fight, you can see the two of them, like Sonya's going at him, and then we get like a close up frame in on them as the head's being ripped off, and then it cuts away again. Like Kintaro was only important for one panel, and it's the one where he dies. And then at the end of the fight, once the bad guys have been defeated, there's like a single line of dialogue where Sonya picks up Kintaro's head and is sad about it. And then it's just kind of like, oh well, we were being mind controlled, wasn't my fault.
And she tosses the head onto the ground,
Yeah. Like, who cares about this guy? Fuck it.
And that is the story of our guy.
Yeah, that's how Kintaro dies, canonically, I guess. The comic's canonicity is dubious at best, but
Something like it happened. Something.
it's safe to say that Kintaro is supposed to be dead during X and 11.
It's
Because
alright.
Shiva is the queen in 11. Kintaro does appear in 11 as once again a Shang Tsung fatality.
That was a nice nod, yes.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool because they up-resed his MK9 design. Even the cat nose somehow looks less stupid.
Let me take a good look at it here. The teeth are a lot more pronounced. The ears are definitely longer and pointier.
Yeah, he's got more of a monstrous mouth.
Yeah.
And jawline. Like, that really, like, improves the face over what he had in 9.
He's still got the nose, but yeah, it actually looks a lot better. He looks a lot less cute. Much more intimidating.
He looks more scary, yeah, which was a big problem with the 9 design.
So, why does he have his soul?
Why does Shang have Kintaro's soul? Well, actually, Kintaro died on Shang Tsung's island, and in 11 there's like a well in the basement that hoards souls. I guess Shang could have got it that way.
Maybe, I guess if the soul gravitated toward that. Was not expecting an honest answer, but okay, fine, I'll take it.
I mean, Stan Lee should be giving me a no prize for that one. But yeah.
References no one's gonna get. Yeah. Right there. And that is Kintaro in all of the games.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
That's it.
Wait, hang on. 57, 58, 59. 2 hours!
We hit 2 hours.
We hit 2 hours talking about Kintaro by my watch before any edits I make. See, we got shit to say. We can talk about anyone. Bring on the meat, Retro. Kintaro has 2 appearances in media. A mighty 2.
Yep.
There's the Malibu Comic, and then there's the glorious gift Mana from the Heavens, that is Battle from the Realms.
Imagine if we had gotten to this character before Battle for the Realms was a thing.
I'm glad we didn't, because then I would have to...
30 years!
Yeah.
30 years! The MK franchise turns 30 this year, does it not?
It does indeed.
And for the first time, Kintaro's in a cartoon or movie or TV show at all, period.
Sad, isn't it?
I'm just happy it exists at this point.
Same. Yeah, Kintaro first shows up in the first issue of Battle Wave, and Malibu kind of did a thing where it tells its audience that MK1 kind of happened between issues after the whole Tao Te Zan thing. Like, they had a whole kerfluffle about this Book of Power, and then they had a tournament. And then we cut to Malibu's version of Shang Tsung groveling in front of Shao Kahn.
Yeah.
And Shang's like, I'm still loyal, please forgive me, and Shao Kahn tells him the stench of failure clings to you. And Gorbak's behind him. Gorbak, by the way, looks notably different in this. He just really does. He just looks a lot less... He looks more like a big guy in a red bathrobe. Like... Sort of halfway between kind of a chunky Shokan and Tommy Chong or something. I don't know. It's a weird design, and he wants to take off Shang's head for getting his son killed.
Right.
And Shang basically pisses himself and runs off. And this is the fortress of Shao Kahn, little sorcerer, in the realm of Outworld, the place of my power. Where is it that you think you can run? And out of fucking nowhere, perhaps Master Sung forgot about your other servant. Forgot about Kintaro. If so, it was a very foolish mistake. No, you must not do this! I swear to God, the phrase "you must not do this" shows up at least 18 times throughout the entire Malibu run. I'm not even kidding.
There are some habits that comic writers of the 80s and 90s would get into.
Isms.
Reused phrases. I think Malibu definitely demonstrates some of the bad habits of the older eras of the comic book industry.
If you go onto the Transformers wiki, there's a whole article about Furmanisms. Because Simon Furman would, use the same 5 or 6 phrases. Half the time when someone died, he'd have them screaming, Shiag. So that was Kintaro's first appearance. He's on the cover of Battle Wave #2 in a really sweet shot with Katana, but he's not actually in the issue itself.
Yeah,
I don't
when I was thinking of repeated phrases from comic book writers, the first one on the top of my head was a Furmanism. It was the constant use of the phrase "reap the whirlwind."
Yeah, he'd do that all the time. It was bad. Let's see. Okay, so after MK1, Sonya goes back with the Special Forces to try to find Shang Tsung's island, and they land, and they get ambushed by a bunch of Shang Tsung's palace guards. Always nice to see them doing something. And her SF guys and her, kind of knock them around, and Kintaro shows up behind them, grabbing a bunch of them by the necks. They might be dead, actually. I don't know. For ages he has lived in the shadows of Goro, in the shadows of the Prince of Pain. Now he is eager to prove his worth to his Dark Emperor. This is his time. You should not have come to this place, Sonya Blade, but I'm pleased that you did. Call him Kintaro, the Scourge of Outworld. And he kind of smacks her upside the head once and goes, "My lord has been expecting you. That is why I'm being gentle. He has such plans for you. That is why I'm letting you live." And there's like a crack sound effect, and he just sort of knocks her unconscious. So he kidnapped Sonya Blade because Shao Kahn wants to marry her, like we discussed last time on the Smoke Retro.
Right.
Because that'll give him the keys to Earthrealm for
Yes, all you need to do to have a legal claim to a realm is marry one random person from that realm. Anyone will do.
Let's see. Next issue, Sonya tries to escape, gets attacked by Melina and Reptile, who are still working together for some reason, despite the sexual harassment that occurred earlier in the series. Here it is. The end of number 4, actually. The end of Battle Wave issue number 4 has one of what I think is, dialogue aside, one of my favorite moments in the MK series. In terms of, like, well, one of my favorite moments in the Malibu Comics series. And it's a little story called When Titans Clash. And it's like, it's not taking place currently. This is some point in the past. And this is about Kintaro challenging Goro. His limbs are strong, his mind is sharp, and the day is young. So says the dialogue. So rather than narrate the entire thing, I'll summarize it. Kintaro finds some sort of secret doorway. Like, there's like a portal in the sky. He's saying, "Some believed you lost after Mortal Kombat, my prince, but Kintaro did not believe such folly. There's no force that could destroy the Prince of Pain unless it was the Scourge of Outworld." There's some really fucking horrific art here, my god.
Well, this was pretty late in the run.
It is said that these doorways are unstable and represent grave danger, yada yada yada. Kintaro does not hesitate, and he's actually got kind of a scruffy, scrubbly little beard here. It's interesting. So he finds Goro through this portal. And, you know, there's some banter. He kicks Goro in the midsection. Goro calls him the Stooge of Outworld as opposed to the Scourge of Outworld. Sick burn. They start fighting. It has been many years since we last were together. I see that your envy has grown along with your stature. Goro kicks his ass. It's not even a contest. He hits him like 5 times. I merely wanted to show my worth to the Emperor. I respect your ambition, Kintaro, if not your common sense. Come, let's put this incident behind us. We are both worthy servants of Shao Kahn, each in his own way. Our kind must stick together, my friend. Now that Goro has returned to Outworld, I suspect that pandemonium shall not be far behind. So this must be after Goro is sent right back home after the ending of the first volume with the Tao Tizan and the Prince of Pain and whatnot.
Right.
So Kintaro's the guy that finds him and brings him back in time to attend the wedding or whatever it is.
So this is after the business with Abacus and Zagat?
Yes. So there's the only story that we've got showing us what's likely to happen when Goro and Kintaro fight. You know? It's the Dragon Ball Z story. Big ass muscles don't win against martial arts prowess. So that's a cool little backstory I've always enjoyed.
Goro was one of the, I would say, pet characters of the Malibu run. He got a lot of like focus as a protagonist.
He did. A lot of characters were written kind of incompetently or out of character. I mean, even for that time, as opposed to what we know them to be now. But Goro actually kind of came out of most of it smelling like roses.
Yeah.
I could believe that maybe he could whip Jax upside the head with a barbell if given a chance. Okay, I don't know about that bit. I really don't. At some point...
Not even if he caught him by surprise?
I feel like he's better than barbells. I really do.
Well, that's the thing. Goro is supposed to be honorable. He shouldn't be catching people by surprise.
Yeah, the whole bit with him going into Earthrealm on Shao Kahn's orders and hitting Jax with a barbell just... I can't believe I say that sentence every time I say it. It's just it doesn't compute. Things I want to see rendered in like Source Filmmaker or something, you know?
So was that the end of it? The last thing Kintaro does in the comic is fight Goro and lose?
No. It continues for a bit. Just to briefly summarize it, Sub-Zero tries to sneak into Shao Kahn's palace. Kintaro stops him, knocks him unconscious. End of Battle Wave is the wedding with Sonya Blade. Everyone's present. Liu Kang shows up. Goro attacks him. Everybody was a kung fu fighting. What does he actually do during this? Where the fuck? Okay, he actually doesn't even appear to fight during this whole brawl they've got going on. He's just off panel. But
this wedding was supposed to be like the end of MK2 as a story, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yes. Okay, he's grappling with Jax here. He's holding Jax back while Kano punches him in the face. So yes, this wedding is roughly the end of the MK2 period. Shao Kahn being amused at the challenges, particularly of Sonya hitting him in the face, has this competition. Everyone, like, he's gonna split people up into two parties. I mentioned this last time. And they're gonna go find an amulet that he's hidden on top of a snowy mountain somewhere. Winner take all.
Yeah.
This is Shao Kahn's idea of a fun game. So Kintaro's on the Outworld side. And to briefly summarize what Kintaro does, his role in the final issue of the Malibu series, Tournament Edition 2, is to be part of a party that sneaks up on the heroes, which is camouflaged by smoke. Smoke is camouflaging Kano, Goro, and Kintaro while they ambush the heroes. I was
gonna say, because Shokan and Sneaky don't necessarily go together.
If you've got a guy that can turn into smoke, give him his moment. And if he happens to be
that's actually clever. I appreciate that they used smoke for something.
If there's one thing I always wish the games would do is like actually make him, I don't know, use that shit in EX moves and make him hide around the screen inside of a giant cloud. Who cares if it's overpowered? Anyway, so they hand the heroes their asses for a little while until Raiden decides to self-destruct and take out all of them, including Smoke and Kintaro, and that's the end of him. And that's the end of Malibu. Sub-Zero finds the medallion, Scorpion kills him. We get a shot of Kuai Yang at the very end to set up MK3, but that never happened.
Right.
So, I mean, as far as appearances go, not too shabby. Got to do a
I
thing
would say,
here and there.
Malibu used Kintaro, well, just in terms of pure screen time, more than the games have combined.
Yeah, completely. Artwork was terrible, but they didn't do too bad with him. Not too bad.
Seems like it was, like he got his due.
Malibu Mortal Kombat comics were published between 1994 and 1995.
That's a lot of comics for only 1 year.
And it would take from 1995 up until last year for Kintaro to show up in anything.
Well, you know, I like how they used him in Battle for the Realms. Now, granted, he does get his arms ripped off by Jax.
We knew it was coming.
Yeah, here's the thing, is that it was the completion of a full story arc started in the first movie, where Goro was the one who ripped Jax's arms off. So now that Jax has the bionic ones, and he's fighting another Shokan, he's like, haha, look what I can do.
It's my turn.
My turn.
I'm the alpha now.
I love that it's the same setup too. Like, Kintaro tries to rip the arms off, and Jax is like, bitch, please.
Been there, done that. These have ventilation and steam power. I love how like they open up and there's like a
yeah, the steam vents in the shoulders was a nice touch.
I mean, yes, it sucks that he got his arms ripped off and maybe died, I guess, possibly.
Well,
It seems ambiguous.
yeah, they just kind of leave him there after the arm. Like, he doesn't finish him, doesn't take the head like they do in Shaolin Monks. He's a little less violent than the version in Shaolin Monks.
There is still a theme of dismemberment going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, but I appreciate that there's like a setup and a payoff. It was a whole thing across the two movies for Jax. The other thing I really want to draw attention to about Kintaro's appearance in Battle of the Realms is that his design is completely MK2. Like, it borrows from 9 not at all. He has a red belt, he has underpants with no loincloth, his armor is all silver instead of black, he doesn't have the cat's eye, and most importantly, his face has an orange nose.
Yeah. He's a little shaggy around the face. There's a little bit of that beard.
They gave him some like I don't know, like hair lines to show that he has like a beard kind of thing. And he has big shaggy eyebrows. So they do get like the furriness across, but it doesn't look, stupid at all.
There is a slight difference. He's not wearing the yin-yang symbol on his belt buckle. He's wearing a Shokan
That's
symbol.
true. That's true. It is the stick figure logo.
I think that's an intentional aesthetic choice, though.
Yeah. The thing is, we haven't really seen the Shokan use the yin-yang at all since the NRS era started. I think, like, Shiva has it in the artwork for her 9 ending, but that seems more like an error, like the artist didn't check the character model.
I mean, I'm attached to the yin-yang symbol as ornamentation.
The thing
But
is, like,
it has a philosophical meaning behind it.
Yeah, the yin-yang, I mean, I understand why they're not using it for the Shokan anymore, and it's largely because, look, this logo is from Earthrealm. It doesn't really make sense that they would have it.
There's many reasons. It doesn't work thematically. And it deserves more than to just be decoration. It's a very powerful symbol and a part of a very powerful philosophy.
But here's my thing, is I think they could still use the basic shape of the symbol. Like, in the 95 movie, Goro is wearing a version of it where the yin and the yang, the black and the white swirls don't have dots. Instead, they have, like, red slash marks. And I've always liked that sort of original twist on the design.
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah. And then, like, in MKX, Goro's belt buckle he has, like, this sort of a sculpture of like a white figure wrestling a black figure that's supposed to evoke the yin-yang. So I find that interesting.
Man, it's the little details.
Yeah. So I think there's still ways they could have like something evocative of the yin-yang in there. Because, like, I don't dislike the stick figure Shokan logo, but it's a little silly looking, kinda. It's very like, what if the Earth united, we had one government, and we decided our flag would just be a stick figure, right?
Everyone showing up to the tournament wearing like the United Nations symbol.
Yeah, and it's just like it's just like an X with a dot for a head.
Oh goodness!
Look, 2 arms, 2 legs. It's a drawing of a human being. That's our logo.
It's a little dude. That's us. We're little dudes. One day, when we go out to meet the incredibly advanced wayfaring space civilizations that'll be out there, our symbol will be a generic little toilet man. The symbol on toilet doors. The dude. That's all it's gonna be. That's us.
I don't know. I think there's lore you could justify a Shokan flag or logo that has like a yin yang like design on it, like something in their culture about like the eternal battle between honor and dishonor, that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
That's what that symbolizes.
Well, I guess that's about it.
Yes, that is all the Kintaro that exists in the world.
That's
Unfortunately.
everything. I don't think we forgot. He's never had an action figure until this upcoming Storm Collectibles figure.
Is that? I guess that's true.
No, he's not had a single one. Never.
No, there was going to be one for Shaolin Monks,
That's
but it
right.
never got released.
Yeah. Was it Shaolin Monks or was it Deception?
It was part of the Deception / Shaolin Monks line because it had the baby blue belt that he has in Shaolin Monks instead of the red one.
Oh man, I can't believe I almost forgot about this. I was so looking forward to it.
It mostly reused the Goro mold because of course it would. But yeah, it never came out.
That's Kintaro's history in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yeah.
Almost there, but not quite.
Gonna be, but didn't.
Coulda, shoulda, dinna.
Womp womp.
Oh, profound sadness, like Fei Long says.
It's not fair. He's cooler than Goro. Look at him.
Like, I love Goro. I would love to see Goro used I would love a game that actually gives us Goro as, like, the fast-moving martial artist that he was kind of depicted as back in MK1, and has Kintaro as the slow-moving, lumbering brute that hits you so hard. And that, by the way, though, I almost forgot to mention this, one of my favorite things about Battle of the Realms was that moment where he's fighting, or trying to fight Raiden, where he just picks up an entire tree and swings it at him. That's the kind of stuff
Yes.
Kintaro should be doing.
Yeah, like that was cool that he got to square off against Raiden, and while Raiden still had his powers at the beginning of the movie. Like he was the heavy, he was the big one for the bad guys team at the beginning of the film.
Still got it handed to him, but no shame.
I mean,
he's a god.
Yeah.
Ah, goodness gracious.
I don't know. Look, I like Goro. I like Goro a lot. I'm sure we said plenty of nice things about Goro when we did his episode. Goro is like...
He's one of the faces of Mortal Kombat.
Here's what I compare it to, is Goro's character is very similar to Worf in Star Trek, and Worf is one of my favorite characters in TNG. But my favorite Worf episodes are the ones where he interacts with other Klingons. Because he's the one who's very, like, repressed and trying to be like this upright, noble, lawful good paladin-y guy, and every other Klingon he meets is this rowdy, drinking pirate character. And
Kintaro's got the earrings.
Yeah, that's what Kintaro should be.
Oh man, I skipped over one part of Malibu that I love so much. I missed one of the issues.
Okay.
There's a point there. I think it's in Battle Wave 2. Yeah, it's at the end. He's trying to kill someone. Hang on. And it's my favorite Kintaro image of all fucking time. I don't know how I almost forgot this. So, when Smoke, Kintaro, and Goro and Kano are ambushing the heroes, Kintaro has this moment. After Kano gets kind of whacked aside initially, Kintaro just shows up behind Kung Lao and Sonya, punches Kung Lao hell of afar, and picks up Jax. This is after Baraka has slashed Jax's arms at the shoulders, so they're basically not working, and he's like, "Do not worry, human. You would not have had a chance against Kintaro, even if your arms were working. Let's see. I want to exert just enough pressure to crack your spine, yet allow you to live." And he's got, I have to give credit for all the shitty art in Malibu. This one picture of Kintaro is great. It's the stuff of nightmares. His face looks a little bit too round, but the shit-eating grin they give him is great and menacing, and he's got blood seeping from between his teeth. Very subtly, but definitely there. I think that this is one of the things that made me fall for Kintaro as a kid. That, cemented him as an eternal badass in my mind. I've always pictured it that way. in relation to this Malibu comic thing, that panel, the way you just described Goro as this honorable Worf-like character, Kintaro should be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He should be a really, really crude, crass, cruel person.
Yeah, it's like, fuck honor, I fight to win.
I fight dirty. I will fuck up crippled people.
Yeah. You know what? Honor is the hypocritical thing that the caste that oppresses me holds up as their virtue. I have no use for it.
This is a guy that takes hostages. This is a guy that cuts off fingers and sends them to people as messages. What a charming man.
Indeed.
What a nice young man. So that's all the Kintaro ever.
Well, before we finish up the episode, we should cover the finishing moves from 9, because we got...
Ah, yes.
The others, or lack thereof, out of the way already. So in 9, he has one where, as we discussed before, he uses all 4 hands to grab you, like, by each wrist and ankle, and pull you in 4 different directions until you rip, draw and quartered. Rip you into 4.
I think the torso goes with the upper left arm.
Yes. Yeah. So the second one he has is that he sort of turns you to face away from him and puts his foot on your back while he rips off your arms with his lower hands and rips off your head with his upper hands. And then he splits your head in 2 by pulling it apart with both hands. So he's holding your arms and 2 halves of your head in each hand. And then everybody has a babality. And Kintaro's babality is that once he's turned into a baby, he crawls up to a saucer full of milk and starts drinking out of it like a cat.
Of course. Look at the cute titty. It's adorable. It's all in good fun.
It's fine.
Now,
so, do you have a favorite?
There is really something to be said for just fucking punching someone's torso clean off and leaving the arms and legs sitting there, but that doesn't actually really exist. If you were to have one, that would if that were it, it would be it. But no, I think that... Do I have a favorite one? I don't know.
I mean, the way Shang does it in 11 counts as a Shang fatality, but it's still really
like,
cool.
I want to say something along the lines of that one because it just works so well. Like, if he had something where he just ripped you apart piece by piece.
Yeah, it's like sick to see the arms burst out of them and then like claw open the rib cage and rip the body apart from the inside. But obviously you can only do that if he's a soul possessing them and Shang is the one doing the fatality.
So I can't really count it as his in good faith, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the punch in half is nice and brutal and to the point. Just wham.
I feel guilty about saying that in this case because, it's not like any particular bit of effort went into programming that fatality. It just uses Kintaro's high punch, and they put a lot of
high punch
efforts into like giving him 2 distinct ways to rip people apart in MK9.
Like, I will say, I think the one where he, like, takes the head off and rips the head in half is kind of bland. Doesn't really do anything for me.
It's a thing where, like, ripping the head in half after it's already off is a bit of a step. It's like, okay, I get it, It's done. At that point, it's a bit much. Maybe if he just crushed it, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess
that probably would be better.
I guess I'll go with the second one where he grabs you by a limb each and pulls.
Yeah. I mean, that's, like I said before, that's sort of the natural first thing you'd imagine when you're thinking of what would a foreign guy do. Yeah, like, I guess he'd grab you by both arms and legs and just pull you in 4 directions. That seems the natural thing to think of.
And you know what? It's poetic.
Yeah.
Because Goro had it first in Deception and he fucking stole it. Eat shit, Prince! What did Goro do? Oh yeah, Goro did that too in 9, but he turned you upside down when he did it for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. I think they were, I mean, They had to come up with fatalities for 2 Shokan at the same time. They were clearly running out of ideas. Which you shouldn't be, because you've never... Like, Scorpion has had 25 finishing moves, and you're still coming up with new ones. Goro's had 2 ever. Come on.
I'm actually kind of surprised that, like, he never...
Gotta be some left in the tank. That's all I'm saying.
I'm actually kind of surprised that, like, they didn't give Kintaro one involving his flame breath.
Yeah, that's the other thing you'd think of, right? Like, Sector does it? How hard can it be? That's like they added a flamethrower style version of the fireball move to Kintaro's regular move list in 9. So it's right there.
The mysteries of life. So what was your favorite?
I guess the draw and quartered.
Eat shit, Goro. The house has it. The eyes have it.
Does Goro in X have a brutality with the flamethrower breath? Does he toasty you? Because if Goro has it before Kintaro...
So now we're not only voting that things that a fatality that Kintaro stole from Goro is the better one, we're also going to vote that things that Goro stole from Kintaro by default belong to Kintaro, so should still be considered his.
It's called Tigrar Fury. Goro stole Kintaro's race in X.
Horrible cultural appropriation, Razor. It's not funny.
Literally cultural appropriation.
Okay, let's see. Dashes forward, rips you in half at the waist. We're terrible people. Why are we like this, or why are they like this?
Why are they like this? Why are we like this, and why are they like this?
I don't... We're still into Mortal Kombat, and I'm turning 40 in fucking October. I don't know. And yes, he has one where he just blows fire back and forth and incinerates you on the spot.
Okay. See? It can be done. And now I'm done.
And now we're done.
This episode is done.
We have talked about Kintaro for 2 hours and a half.
That is at least 30 minutes longer than I thought we'd go.
Proof that if you care long enough, proof that if you care enough, you can talk about anything for any length of fucking time.
Absolutely anything.
All right,
I'm
folks.
I'm looking forward to seeing what we do with the meat episode now.
It's gonna be so good. Waspinator has plans. You don't understand.
You can't beat it.
Just can't.
You can't beat the meat.
Here, take this. 1,000 meat dollars. That is the price the bank will set when I kidnap their queen. Okay. So, thank you all for tuning in. It's been wonderful. You know who's next. You don't even have to guess. This is one character left out of MK2 that remains. And boy, are we going to have a lot to talk about.
Prepare to feel the wrath. Feel the power.
All too easy. See you next time, folks. Have a good night.
Later, nerds.